Chapter 658. Yang Jun's expression remained calm. He naturally would not regret it. After cultivating to his level, perpetual moon pills and permanent essence pills were certainly good things, but could they compare to time stones? Ning Qing respectfully stood up and cupped his fists before speaking. This junior has just arrived in the Eternal Night domain and has not seen the Void Collapse Maelstrom yet. Therefore, I want to take a look. I hope Senior can understand. When the cultivators in the hall heard Ning Cheng's words, they all shook their heads in disdain. If they had not seen a void collapse, who would they be deceived by? How could any cultivator who came to the Eternal Night domain not have seen a void collapse? Su Yuqinghong still had a smile on his face, as if he really believed Ning Cheng's words. Instead, he nodded and said, "In that case, I won't take away your treasures. Dao friend Ning Cheng, please take a seat." Ning Cheng did not sit down and spoke up in a polite tone. "This junior has disturbed you for a long time. It's time for me to leave. Many thanks for Senior's hospitality." Su Yuqinghong nodded and said to the maidservant on the side, "Quickly lead the way for the guests." Ning Cheng left the Su clan with a smile and joy. When he walked out of the Su clan's gate, he even rewarded the maidservant with a low-grade defensive Dao artifact to show that he felt very satisfied with the Su clan's wedding. However, after Ning Cheng left the Su clan, the smile on his face immediately disappeared. Su Yuqinghong was definitely a person who hid a dagger behind his smile. Don't look at this person's friendly demeanor. Ning Cheng felt sure that as soon as he left the Eternal Night domain, he would immediately be targeted. With the status of the Su clan in the Eternal Night domain, it would be strange if he could go to the place where the jade strip was stored after taking it. However, he did not worry about it. With his current cultivation, as long as he left the Eternal Night domain and controlled the Starry Sky will to escape, it would be strange if the Su clan could catch up to him. Nevertheless, Ning Cheng did not rush to leave the Eternal Night City. He believed that with the status of the Su clan in the Eternal Night domain, they would not go as far as to attack him in the Eternal Night City. Even if they wanted to snatch his things, they would at least have to wait until he left the Eternal Night domain, or until the Su clan felt confident that he could not leave the Eternal Night domain. Ning Cheng was not in a hurry to leave the Eternal Night domain. His only purpose was to see Su Baijiao. Su Baijiao said that she knew what he wanted. The only explanation was that she could see his desire for the purple of the purple Yin. Although Ning Cheng believed that the purple Yin spring water would not have much effect on Xionghua's injuries, but if it was available, Ning Cheng would not mind getting some. Whether it was effective or not, he would only know after trying it out. Ning Cheng had initially thought that the Perpetual Sand Rest Stop was not a small place in the Eternal Night City, but after asking around, he found out that it was just a small and unremarkable rest stop. If Su Baijiao hadn't specifically mentioned this name, it would have been very difficult for him to find such an inn in the city of Evernight and rest there. Su Baijiao asked him to meet at the Perpetual Sand Rest Stop tomorrow night. However, after Ning Cheng found the Perpetual Sand Rest Stop, he did not go in. Regardless of whether this rest stop had anything to do with the Su clan or not, since he had already made an appointment for tomorrow night, then he would have to come back tomorrow night. Ning Cheng went to another rest stop in the Eternal Night domain, called the Eternal Immortal Rest Stop. Although he did not have many Starry Sky Essence crystals on him, it was more than enough to stay in an ordinary resting pen for a night. Ning Cheng did not pay for one night's room, he directly paid for 5 nights. Even if he felt sure that he wouldn't stay here for more than 2 nights, he didn't care about these Starry Sky crystals. With the status of the Su clan in the Eternal Night domain, his every move at this time would definitely be monitored. Instead of that, he might as well pay more for the room and use it to confuse them. He really did not have any immortal crystals or perpetual moon pills on him. Otherwise, he would have to pay at least a month's worth of room fees. If not for that jade strip, Ning Cheng might have already wandered around the Eternal Night City to see if there was a good place for him to set up an artifact crafting stall. Now that he couldn't go anywhere, he could only wait until tomorrow night to meet Su Baijiao. Therefore, as soon as he entered the room, Ning Cheng began to arrange various defensive arrays. Defense, shielding, warning. At this time, Ning Qing fully realized how important it was to be proficient in array formations. In order not to shock others, Ning Qing did not arrange high-level array formations. Most of them were Grade 3 celestial arrays or Grade 4 celestial river arrays. Once he arranged a Grade 6 celestial river defensive array, it would definitely alarm a large number of people in the Eternal Night domain. After arranging the array formations, Ning Qing took out the jade strip Yang Jun had given him and carefully looked at it. From the jade strip Yang Jun gave him, he could see that this spatial collapse maelstrom was very far away from the Eternal Night domain. For Ning Qing, the further this place was from the Eternal Night domain, the better. However, he feared that others could easily find it if it was too close. The jade strip's directions were very clear, which made Ning Qing wonder if Yang Jun had engraved this jade strip himself. Maybe Yang Jun had obtained this jade strip from someone else, but he couldn't find a way to get in, so he took it out for a transaction. After putting away the jade strip, Ning Qing closed his eyes to rest. Without perpetual moon pills for cultivation, he didn't want to cultivate in this place. The only thing he could do now was to continue deducing array formations. Most of the day passed by quickly. Just as Ning Qing immersed himself in deducing array formations, his defensive array formation suddenly moved slightly, and a shadow suddenly emerged from his defensive array formation. Ning Qing suddenly sobered up and immediately stood up. At the same time, a Dao artifact long spear appeared in his hands, while the twin wings of the heavenly clouds readied itself. Although his array formation was not of a high level, it was something he had personally arranged. Except for powerhouses like Zhongli Baiqi, only a few people could unwittingly enter his defensive array formation without triggering it. "Who is your excellency?" Ning Qing stared at the cultivator who entered his defensive array and asked in a cold voice. Although he didn't look nervous, he felt even more shocked in his heart. He could feel that the cultivator who entered his defensive array didn't have a higher cultivation than him. It definitely wasn't a cultivator in the heaven-seated realm. A cultivator with no higher cultivation than him could enter his defensive array without making a sound. It was just too terrifying. There were only two reasons for this. One was that the other party was much stronger than him, and the second was that the other party's attainments in array formations were much higher than his. "You know me. Your array formations aren't bad." With a familiar voice, the cultivator removed the mask on his face. "It's you." Ning Qing felt surprised. He didn't expect Duan Gantai to come looking for him. In his mind, Duan Gantai should be holding Su Baijiao in the bridal chamber at this time. How could he find him here? This fellow's jealousy couldn't be so disgusting, right? He even squeezed out of the bridal chamber to teach him a lesson, an object of jealousy for no reason. Duan Gantai didn't show any of the killing intent and jealousy Ning Qing had seen before. Instead, he looked at Ning Qing calmly and said, "Are you thinking that I should be sleeping with Su Baijiao in my arms? Why would I have the time to come here and find trouble with you?" Ning Qing acquiesced. He was a little surprised by Duan Gantai's accurate judgment. Was this fellow really the same person he saw fighting over a woman? "I have my own skills, so no one knows that I came here. My other self is lying on Su Baijiao's bed. Of course, Su Baijiao wouldn't sleep with someone like me in her arms. At least I have some self-awareness." After Duan Gantai finished, he didn't wait for Ning Cheng's invitation and took the initiative to sit down. Ning Qing also sat down and poured a cup of spiritual tea for Duan Gantai before saying, "Tell me why you came here." "I have no interest in you and Su Baijiao." Duan Gantai showed a slight smile. "I know that you have no interest in Su Baijiao. Su Baijiao shouldn't be worthy of you. I believe I didn't misread you. I came here today to ask you for a favor. Of course, I won't treat you badly." Ning Qing fully understood at this moment that this Duan Gantai was an extremely intelligent fellow. This kind of person would never put his jealousy and dissatisfaction in front of him. From this, Ning Qing understood that the Duan Gantai he saw in the Su clan was not his real style. Thinking back to Duan Gantai's performance in the middle of the wooden hall, even after Su Baijiao pinched his finger, Duan Gantai still remained calm. This was to show his magnanimity in front of the Su clan and to suppress the jealousy and anger in his heart. However, after Su Baijiao walked past Ning Cheng, he couldn't help but release his murderous intent towards Ning Cheng. This showed that although he pretended to be magnanimous, his shrewdness ran deep. Even if he pretended to be magnanimous, he could only pretend for a while. When the people from the Su clan saw this, they naturally wouldn't put a superficial cultivator like Duan Gantai in their eyes. This fellow truly had a good mind. He pretended to be patient in front of the Su clan's elders, and then couldn't help it. This kind of act was more realistic than directly acting out. Ning Cheng spoke up in a calm voice, "What do you want me to help you with? I just arrived in the Eternal Night Domain and have limited abilities. Whether I can help you or not is another matter. I know that the Su clan wants something from me, and the Su clan also wants something from you. You don't have to refute it. As for what you want, I won't ask. As for what you want from me, I won't say it. Let's work together. Otherwise, you can never escape from the Eternal Night Domain." After listening to Duan Gantai's words, Ning Cheng sneered, "Brother Duan, whether I can escape from the Eternal Night Domain or not, that's my own business. You don't have to worry about it. Besides, I'm going to stay in the Eternal Night Domain for a while." Duan Gantai laughed, "Brother Ning, we're the same kind of people. I can guess one or two things about what you're thinking. If you want to cooperate with me, then let's not have any suspicions. Maybe you're relying on an escape talisman or a flight-type weapon to say that no one can do anything to you after leaving the Eternal Night Domain. But I can tell you for sure that you underestimate the Su clan. Not to mention whether you can escape with an escape talisman or a flight-type weapon, I'm sure that you can't leave the Eternal Night Domain." Ning Cheng's expressions changed slightly. This was what he was most worried about. He could definitely escape with his starry sky wheel, which meant that he did not fear Duan Gantai's threat. What he feared the most was that he couldn't leave the Eternal Night Domain. "Let's work together. I also want to leave the Eternal Night Domain. You saw my means just now. I can easily pass through your array formation. However, my means can only deceive the Su clan for a short time. It's not enough to leave the Eternal Night Domain. Therefore, I need your help, and you also need my help." Duan Gantai's tone sounded very sincere. "Conditions?" Ning Cheng spoke up without any hurry. Since Duan Gantai came to him at this time, it meant that Duan Gantai was in a much more dangerous situation compared to him. He believed that Duan Gantai had some kind of treasure on him. Otherwise, the Su clan would not tie Duan Gantai up by marrying Su Baijiao off. Chapter 659. 1,000,000 Perpetual Moon Pills. Duan Gantai spoke up in a straightforward manner. Ning Cheng's face was calm, and one could not see any abnormalities, but in his heart, he had already started to tumble endlessly. 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills, this Duan Gantai actually took it out. This person was just too rich. He always thought that he was rich, but compared to Duan Gantai, he was just a poor man. In the beginning, he had managed to obtain the Baiqi artifact crafting store from an eternal-level heavenly emperor through the temptation of a good fortune fragment. Moreover, under the pressure of various powerhouses, he managed to obtain 500,000 perpetual moon pills. Duan Gantai was just a trivial heaven's mandate cultivator, yet he could take out 1,000,000 spirit stones without even batting an eyelid. Moreover, since Duan Gantai mentioned perpetual moon pills, it meant that he knew that he urgently needed perpetual moon pills. Only with more perpetual moon pills could he advance to the full circle of heaven's mandate realm and then cross the tribulation to reach the heaven-seated realm. From this, it could be seen that not only was this person wealthy, but he also knew where the opponent's weakness was. "I don't want perpetual moon pills, I need permanent essence pills." Ning Cheng secretly took in a deep breath, but his tone remained calm. He absolutely could not show an expression of 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills. Duan Gantai remained silent for a moment. "I don't have many permanent essence pills, but I came to you in good faith. If you want to exchange it for permanent essence pills, I can give you 10,000 permanent essence pills." Ning Qing felt even more shocked. 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills could theoretically be exchanged for 10,000 permanent essence pills. In fact, it was impossible to exchange for it. This Duan Gantai could come up with 10,000 permanent essence pills to cooperate with him, which meant that this cooperation would still be beneficial to him. Apart from the fact that he was in dire straits, his net worth was definitely several times more than that. Ning Qing spoke up slowly, "Brother Duan, 10,000 permanent essence pills might not even be 1/100th of what you offered. You might lack sincerity in this cooperation." Duan Gantai stared at Ning Cheng for a while before speaking up with the same calm voice, "Brother Ning, I'm not asking you to cooperate with me. This is a good thing for both of us, and I am showing my sincerity by offering something. Even if I only have these 10,000 permanent essence pills, I will still give them to you. Compared to my life, cultivation resources are nothing. Besides..." Duan Gantai's tone turned cold. "Moreover, I know that your secret might be even bigger than mine. I might have obtained some cultivation resources, but as for how many good things you have, you should know it yourself, and the people from the Su clan should also know it. I'm only willing to take out these things. If you're really unwilling to cooperate with me, then I'll take my leave. I don't believe that I can't find a way out." Ning Qing suddenly felt a little helpless. Since Duan Gantai only took out these things, he couldn't do anything about it. Seeing that Duan Gantai was about to leave, Ning Qing had to stop him. "Brother Duan, I have a good weapon and a few materials, but these things can't be turned into cultivation resources. That's why I want to take the risk of using Yang Jun's jade strip. How about this, you take out 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills and 10,000 permanent essence pills, and we'll make a deal. Otherwise, I will give Yang Jun's jade strip to the Su clan." "Alright, it's settled then." Duan Gantai didn't wait for Ning Cheng to continue and directly took out a ring and threw it to Ning Cheng. It was so decisive that Ning Cheng couldn't believe it. Ning Cheng took the ring and swept it with his spiritual consciousness. Sure enough, it contained 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills and 10,000 permanent essence pills. He felt a little bitter in his heart. It seemed like his appetite was too small. With Duan Gantai's forthrightness, if he wanted more, he could still succeed. Duan Gantai seemed to understand Ning Cheng's thoughts and spoke up calmly, "First, I can only take out these things at most. If you want more, I won't trade with you. Second, the Su clan isn't eyeing your jade strip, but the other things on you. Even if you give the jade strip to the Su clan, you can't escape. Third, the things you traded with Yang Jun will soon appear on Su Yukingheng's desk. You don't understand the Su clan. Let me give you a piece of advice. After escaping from the Eternal Night Domain, if you insist on going to the place marked in the jade strip, you will only be courting death. I'm sure that the Su clan's people will be waiting for you in that place. The reason I know this is not because I know more than you, but because I know the Su clan better than you do. Thank you for reminding me." Ning Cheng put away the ring, and his whole person completely calmed down, no longer showing any fluctuations. Duan Gantai's shrewdness and judgment far exceeded his expectations. It wasn't surprising for such a person to have so many good things. Duan Gantai showed an indiscernible smile. "No, you owe me a favor. Just remember to pay it back in the future." Ning Cheng also showed a smile. "You're wrong. It's still within the scope of our cooperation. I don't owe you a favor. You helped me because you think highly of me and want to help me deal with the Su clan in the future. I don't have any hatred with the Su clan, so it's fine if I leave. But you and the Su clan might not be that simple, right? But if it's really as you said, I don't mind helping you in the future if possible." Duan Gantai nodded. Talking to smart people really saves energy. If you say you don't owe me, then you don't owe me anything. Let's not talk much nonsense. Let's talk about how we can cooperate. Ning Cheng didn't bother to talk much with Duan Gantai. This fellow's scheming and appearance could match up to his outstanding appearance. Duan Gantai was a tactful person and didn't talk nonsense. After hearing Ning Cheng's words, he directly spoke up. "When we were toasting before, my wife pinched your finger. That's right. Maybe she had a crush on me and wanted to ask me out. This woman really doesn't follow the etiquette of a married woman. She hasn't even consummated their marriage, yet she already knows how to ask out other men. In the words of my hometown, it's called asking out. Ning Qing seemed to be standing in Duan Gantai's perspective. Duan Gantai's face once again regained a calm look and interrupted Ning Cheng's words. She said that she wants to meet you at the Perpetual Sand Rest Stop tomorrow night. She said that she has something you need. Ning Qing felt surprised. This Duan Gantai was too strange. He could even read the information from a spiritual consciousness imprint. Did this fellow have a spiritual consciousness thorn like him? But he didn't notice Duan Gantai's spiritual consciousness breaking through the spiritual consciousness imprint in his hand. However, he still remained calm on the surface. Yes, she did say that she has something I need. Duan Gantai showed a rare smile. If I'm not wrong, with your performance in the Su clan, the thing you need should be the purple Yin spring water, right? Ning Qing felt a sense of helplessness in his heart. His performance was indeed too obvious. He could only admit it. Yes, I need the purple Yin spring water. Duan Gantai's face returned to seriousness. I don't know what you need the purple Yin spring water for, but I can tell you that the reputation of the purple Yin spring water far outweighs its effects. Only the purple Yin spirit spring bead or the real purple Yin spirit spring water is a good thing. The purple Yin spring water soaked in the purple Yin spirit spring water is of little value. Ning Qing didn't speak. He completely agreed with Duan Gantai's judgment in his heart. He originally thought the same way, and this Duan Gantai had the same thoughts as him. Seeing Ning Qing remain silent, Duan Gantai continued, moreover, Su Baijiao doesn't have much purple Yin spring water in her hands. She called you over to tie you up with the purple Yin spring water. The reason I gave you 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills and permanent essence pills is to ask you to give up this unrealistic and useless bait. Tell me what you think. Ning Qing spoke up in a non-committal tone. Duan Gantai spoke up with a solemn tone. I know where the two powerhouses who snatched the purple Yin spirit spring bead went, and I can also provide you with a place called the Temple of Falling Stars. It's a complimentary gift. What I'm asking you to do now is to go to the appointment tomorrow night, and then I'll catch you in the act. With my violent temper, I'll definitely start a fight with you on the spot. Just say that you can't fight in the Eternal Night domain. If you have the guts, then go to the Eternal Night Dueling Tower. I know about the Eternal Night Dueling Tower. Ning Qing nodded. The jade strip that Su Baijiao gave him contained an introduction to the Eternal Night Dueling Tower. This place was located on the public square outside the Eternal Night domain. As long as one entered the Eternal Night Dueling Tower, one had to die and comprehend something before they could come out. One could even say that this was one of the cruelest challenge platforms that Ning Qing had ever encountered. Although the other challenge platforms also had such a saying, it was not certain. However, in the Eternal Night Dueling Tower, one had to die. Yes, it's the Eternal Night Dueling Tower. The Eternal Night Dueling Tower is located on the Eternal Night Public Square outside the Eternal Night domain. Naturally, we can't really enter the Eternal Night Dueling Tower. Only by going to the Eternal Night Public Square would we have a chance to escape. Even if the Su clan is even more blatant, they would not dare to stop us from fighting for a woman on the street. Therefore, it will definitely succeed. Duan Gantai seemed to be afraid that Ning Qing might not understand it and spoke in a very careful manner. Ning Qing did not know much about the Su clan. He frowned slightly. You mean, if we don't leave the Eternal Night domain, even if we escape now, we won't be able to escape? You will definitely not be able to escape. You will know why in the future, but I don't have time to explain it to you right now. With your attainments in array formations, you still don't know what an aura-locking grand array is. Duan Gantai spoke in a very affirmative tone. Ning Qing felt shocked in his heart. Duan Gantai did not know about his attainments in array formations. Therefore, when he spoke those words, he fully understood why Duan Gantai felt so afraid. He was now an Imperial Array Master who could barely arrange Celestial River Grade 6 array formations. Moreover, he had also come into contact with an aura-locking grand array. This grand array, as long as it collected a cultivator's aura and integrated it into the grand array, could lock the cultivator within the grand array. Once the cultivator tried to escape from the grand array would suddenly activate and block the cultivator's aura. Fortunately, he did not abruptly leave the Eternal Night domain. Otherwise, he might have already ended up in the Su clan's prison. The ignorant were fearless. Ning Qing felt a chill in his heart. If he had known that the aura-locking grand array had trapped him, he would have also asked Duan Gantai for cooperation. Fortunately, Duan Gantai thought that his attainments in array formations were too low and lacked knowledge. Therefore, he simply came to him for cooperation. It seems that it was not wrong to keep a low profile. Without waiting for Ning Qing to ask, Duan Gantai took the initiative to explain, the Su clan, on seeing us making such a big scene and wanting to go to the dueling platform, would definitely take the initiative to release the Eternal Night domain's aura-locking grand array and let us temporarily go to the dueling tower in the Eternal Night Grand Public Square. This is our only chance. What if the Su clan refuses? Ning Qing knew that Duan Gantai's plan was the best, but after knowing the danger, he also started to think about it. Chapter 660. Duan Gantai took a deep breath. Based on my understanding of the Su clan would definitely let us go to the Eternal Night Public Square. As one of the largest clans in the Eternal Night domain, as long as we don't really want to escape, the Su clan wouldn't be so shameless as to lock us up in public. If the Su clan really did this, it would be akin to lice on a bald man's head. It would make it clear that they want to steal our things, which would definitely cause others to covet us. Of course, if the Su clan really is so shameless and brainless, then we can only resign ourselves to our fate. Ning Qing clenched his fists. He could feel that Duan Gantai's words did not mean despair. In other words, if the Su clan refused, Duan Gantai might have a way to leave. However, this method might hurt Duan Gantai's vitality. As for Ning Qing, he really had no way to leave. He had to resign himself to fate. Whether it was a blessing or a curse, he couldn't avoid it. As Ning Qing thought of this, he decided to let it go. If he really couldn't leave, then he would think about it again. Moreover, he believed that Duan Gantai's plan had a 90% chance of success. While escaping, even if there was a 10% chance of success, 90% chance of success was already very high. Brother Duan, I fully understand. I will definitely act according to the plan tomorrow night. Also, Brother Duan, please give me the Temple of Fallen Stars positional jade strip. Maybe I can use it in the future. Ning Qing let go of his thoughts and immediately made plans for the future. Duan Gantai showed a faint smile and put down the jade strip he had already prepared. His figure flashed and instantly disappeared from Ning Cheng's room. Ning Cheng's defensive array formation was like a curtain to him, and he didn't even need to lift a finger to open it. This time, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness had already noticed the changes in the other party's movement technique and his array formation. He saw Duan Gantai's body flash as he walked forward, and then he easily passed through his array formation. Ning Cheng remained silent. He had never seen such an array-breaking method before. The light flashing over Duan Gantai's body most likely belonged to a heaven-defying weapon. This weapon could ignore ordinary array formations. If this person became his enemy in the future, he would definitely become a powerful opponent. In any case, Ning Qing felt that Duan Gantai had no reason to lie to him. He picked up the jade strip given to him by Duan Gantai and casually scanned it with his spiritual consciousness. Inside it was the location of the vast and boundless starry sky. The Temple of Fallen Stars was located in a remote location within the starry sky. Putting away the jade strip, Ning Qing did not intend to go to the Temple of Fallen Stars in the near future. With his current cultivation, discussing the Purple Een Spirit Spring Bead with such an expert was simply courting death. However, this Duan Gantai really had a lot of secrets. He even knew about this. Ning Cheng had already left the rest stop and arrived at the Eternal Sand rest stop. He did not even use his spiritual consciousness to sweep out for the cultivators following him. The perpetual sand rest stop was not only inconspicuous, but there were also not many people. The hall on the ground floor was not very spacious, and there were even fewer people. Including Ning Cheng, there were only 3 guests. Ning Cheng did not look for a booth, rather he went to the corner of the ground floor and asked for a pot of spiritual wine before sitting down. He wasn't thinking about Su Baijiao but Duan Gantai. Strictly speaking, his cooperation with Duan Gantai was mutually beneficial. But in the cooperation, he had gained all the advantages. Through this cooperation, one could only say that Duan Gantai was a very good person and was quite magnanimous. Ning Cheng picked up the jug of wine and brought it to his mouth. This was his subconscious action, but when the jug of wine was close to his mouth, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Even if he didn't understand the aura-locking grand array, as long as he explained it in detail, even if it took some time, he could explain it clearly. As long as he understood the power of the aura-locking grand array, he wouldn't need to take out these perpetual moon pills and permanent essence pills. Maybe he would even ask for something from him. With Duan Gantai's shrewdness, wouldn't he have the patience to explain it? Moreover, he even said that it would take too much time to explain it. He and Duan Gantai didn't know each other, so why did he let him take all the benefits? As long as he cooperated with him, he could just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. No, Ning Cheng even subconsciously wanted to stand up. There must be something wrong here. Duan Gantai was definitely not the kind of person who would give benefits to others for no reason. For someone like him, even if he knew that the Su clan wanted to use him, he would still feel a little uncomfortable seeing Su Baijiao flirting with him, let alone help him. Although this kind of help was for Duan Gantai, Ning Cheng still felt that something was wrong. However, after thinking about it, Ning Cheng couldn't figure out what Duan Gantai was hiding. In any case, as long as he and Duan Gantai quarreled, they could go to the Eternal Night Grand Public Square. Once they reached the Eternal Night Grand Public Square, he and Duan Gantai would go their separate ways and would have nothing to do with each other. Even if Duan Gantai had any means, he wouldn't be able to harm him. As for the Temple of Falling Stars, he had no plans to go there in the short term. After leaving the Eternal Night Grand Public Square, with his speed, he wouldn't fear Duan Gantai. Even if the Su clan wanted to chase after him, they wouldn't be able to catch up to him. Did he really think that Duan Gantai, a gentleman, was a mean person? Just as Ning Cheng frowned, a sweet voice arrived. "Brother Ning, sorry to keep you waiting. Senior apprentice Sister Su is here." "I just arrived." Ning Cheng quickly stood up and smiled. Su Baijiao's eyes flashed with some hidden bitterness that others couldn't detect at all. She then spoke to Ning Cheng in a soft voice, "Let's go to the private room. I booked a private room here." Others couldn't detect this hidden bitterness, but Ning Cheng saw it. Ning Cheng's eyes also showed some joy and a little uneasiness after seeing Su Baijiao's hidden bitterness. "I'll listen to Senior Apprentice Sister Su's instructions." Su Baijiao nodded and went upstairs first. At the same time, she used a softer voice to reach Ning Cheng's ears. "Big brother Ning, you can just call me Baijiao from now on." Ning Cheng and Duan Gantai had already discussed and decided to leave the Eternal Night domain with Su Baijiao's help. In Ning Cheng's opinion, it would be best for him to blow up this matter as much as possible. That way, Duan Gantai's reason would be even stronger. "That's good, little sister Baijiao," Ning Cheng called out. Su Baijiao's face turned slightly red and quickened her pace. Soon, she walked into a private room on the second floor. She waited for Ning Cheng to come in before quickly activating the restrictions on the private room. Ning Cheng looked around the private room and found that there was even a bed inside. He sneered in his heart. She really came to seduce people on their wedding night. "Baijiao." Ning Cheng hesitated. It seemed that he couldn't speak the next words. Su Baijiao took out some array flags and activated a few more restrictions on the private room before speaking. "Big brother Ning, I shouldn't have come to see you today. The first time I saw you, I knew that you weren't an ordinary person. You haven't even reached the heaven-seated realm, yet you could come to the eternal night domain. This time, you came to my wedding and even gave me such a precious gift. I really appreciate it. After guessing that you needed the purple spring water, I just wanted to tell you everything I know as soon as possible. I hope that you won't look down on me because of this. Little sister Baijiao. Ning Cheng's eyes flashed with gratitude. He took a step forward and grabbed Su Baijiao's hands. Su Baijiao's face turned red again and quickly struggled. However, Ning Cheng's grip was tight, and she couldn't break free. Su Baijiao's palms instantly turned moist in Ning Cheng's hands. Her voice also trembled. My Su clan still has half a bottle of purple spring water. Big brother Ning, let go of me, Baijiao, although the purple spring water is important, I am even more grateful to you. On this important day, you deliberately came out to tell me such a trivial thing. Thank you. Ning Cheng's eyes flashed with heat while he sneered in his heart. Sure enough, he didn't bring it with him. In the end, he still had to go to the Su clan to get it. If this half bottle of purple spring water could really cure Qianghua, he would do everything in his power to get it. However, Ning Cheng felt sure that this half bottle of purple spring water would not have much effect on Qianghua. Moreover, he was sure that even if he went to the Su clan, he wouldn't be able to get it. At best, it would only send him to the Su clan to cook. Don't do this, let go of me. Su Baijiao's face blushed like it was covered in rouge. However, Ning Cheng still did not let go. Bang! The door to the booth suddenly burst open. Duan Gantai, who was extremely angry, stood at the door and pointed his finger at Ning Cheng and Su Baijiao while trembling. His eyes were so red that they looked as if they were about to bleed. At the same time, waves of murderous intent erupted from his body. Behind Duan Gantai, there were several waiters from the rest stop, who also saw the ambiguous appearance of Ning Cheng and Su Baijiao. Su Baijiao quickly took her hand away from Ning Cheng's hand, and her face turned a little pale. Whether it was true or not, Duan Gantai was still her nominal husband. Yet, on the second day of their wedding, she had already fooled around with another male cultivator. If this matter spread out, it would definitely cause her to lose all her face. Duan Gantai suddenly brought out a long knife from his back and smashed the rest stop into pieces. Surnamed Ning, this one already knew that you were not a good person. Yet, on the second day of this Duan's wedding, you actually seduced my woman. Die for me. Duan Gantai's forehead bulged with blue veins, and his murderous aura surged. It seemed that he would not stop until he swallowed Ning Cheng. Duan Gantai's voice was hoarse and loud, and in just a moment, everyone around knew about it. Soon, the matter spread like wildfire, and a large group of cultivators swarmed over to watch the fun. Su Baijiao of the Su clan had just gotten married and had even invited many celebrities and powerhouses from the Eternal Night Domain. Yet, in just one day, Su Baijiao had a private meeting with another man in the rest stop, and was caught red-handed by her son-in-law. Not to mention that this female cultivator was a vinegar jar. Even if she wasn't, no one would be able to endure such a thing. Gantai, don't be like this. You misunderstood. Let's go back and talk about it. Su Baijiao spoke up anxiously. She truly felt anxious. After Duan Gantai's death, it didn't matter to her. But now, she and Duan Gantai had just gotten married, and yet such a thing happened. It truly made her lose all her face. At this moment, she could only blame herself for being too impatient about this matter. If she had known earlier, she would have discussed it with her family and then slowly come up with a plan. Ning Cheng truly admired Duan Gantai. Not only did he find this place without anyone knowing, but he also accurately grasped the opportunity to open the door. This was a very good partner, but also a very strong opponent. Chapter 661. Ning Cheng and Duan Gantai both rushed towards the Eternal Night Public Square in anger. When the two rushed out of the Eternal Night Domain, no one stopped them. The two felt happy at the same time. At least the first step of their plan had succeeded. If Duan Gantai really did as he guessed, then he would truly be finished. Although Duan Gantai couldn't kill him with a sneak attack, he could still delay Ning Cheng's escape. As long as he delayed Ning Cheng for 1 or 2 breaths, the people from the Su clan would be able to stop him. The two of them walked all the way to the Eternal Night Dueling Tower on the Eternal Night Public Square, followed by a large number of cultivators who were there to watch the show. Swish! Ning Cheng's shadow flashed at the edge of the public square array formation, before disappearing without a trace. Thinking until here, the originally vague idea suddenly became clear in Ning Cheng's mind. What would happen if Duan Gantai escaped to the Evernight Grand Square at the same time as him, and Duan Gantai suddenly attacked him? Su Baijiao, at this moment, became an outsider. She wanted to rush up and grab Duan Gantai or stop Ning Cheng, but she didn't have the courage to do so. The people on the street were already laughing at her. If she still stood up for them, she would have no place to hide her face. If the two of them went all out, and he didn't use Sunset's twilight, whether or not he could kill Duan Gantai was an entirely different matter. Even if he were an idiot, Duan Gantai understood that Ning Cheng had deliberately suppressed him to the point of vomiting blood to make him relax his vigilance. What a cunning fellow! After losing 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills and 10,000 permanent essence pills, he still chose to escape using this secret technique. If he had known earlier, he would have just used a forbidden technique to escape and let that Ning bastard take advantage of him. Duan Gantai cursed at Ning Cheng while making dozens of hand gestures. In just a breath's time, his entire body turned into a ball of blood light. This ball of blood light flashed on the spot and then disappeared without a trace. The moment he arrived in front of the dueling tower, Ning Cheng brought out his long spear. At the same time, Traceless stabbed towards Duan Gantai. At the same time, the twin wings of the heavenly clouds crazily activated. He wanted to teleport out of this place first. He didn't want Duan Gantai's corpse, and he also knew that he couldn't kill Duan Gantai in a single move. Hence, when he used this traceless move, he didn't even need his spear anymore. Su Yukinghong nodded, took out a jade card and carved a few array patterns on it. Unfortunately, Ning Cheng didn't know that the Eternal Night Public Square's array formation would automatically lock onto a person if he knew about it. If he knew about it, he would have understood Duan Gantai's thoughts. Ning Cheng took action against Duan Gantai because he feared that Gantai would attack. In any case, he believed that even if Duan Gantai didn't use this array formation to escape, even if he blocked his path, he would still have other means to escape. This was the only thought in Ning Cheng's mind at this moment. Bang! The moment Ning Cheng escaped, an invisible force knocked Duan Gantai back and forced him to land on the public square again. A few incomparably powerful killing auras came pressing down from afar. Ning Yen Ching Ching force and a few from far. From a dong killing intent. From the distance. From Ching Kuden Gan Tian's Tian. Cheng. Cheng time, do, he came. Cheng. Cheng Cheng. Chen Cheng Tian, time, the Cheng Shan, the star Jiang Cheng the Cheng time Tian public Cheng, the star sky square dong in star time. The next moment, the star sky will turn into nothingness and disappeared without a trace. By this time, Ning Cheng had already reached the edge of the Eternal Night Public Square's grand array. His spiritual consciousness swept through the scene and cursed in his heart. This Duan Gantai truly didn't have any good intentions. However, he also felt relieved. Fortunately, he had started ahead of time. Otherwise, he would have had to resolve Duan Gantai's move. If that happened, he wouldn't have been able to escape from the Eternal Night Public Square. Ha! Duan Gantai laughed in anger. His face showed only shame and anger, not even half a smile. Surnamed Ning, do you think you can rely on your pretty face? Your grandpa wants to go to the duel tower to kill you. I, Duan Gantai, want to see who has no guts and who only knows how to curry favor with women. If Ning Cheng had attacked from behind, Duan Gantai wouldn't have been able to block Ning Cheng's spear. Obviously, Duan Gantai and Ning Cheng had the same thoughts, and the two attacked almost at the same time. Ning Cheng subconsciously shuddered. If that was the case, then this fellow's previous words were all to make him relax his vigilance. In order to make him relax his vigilance, this fellow not only bargained with him, but even mentioned the Temple of Falling Stars. He had calculated everything, but he never expected that Ning Cheng would not show any gratitude and instead attack him at the same time as him. He wasn't afraid of fighting, but what shocked him the most was that Ning Cheng's cultivation wasn't any lower than his. Therefore, when the two of them fought, he didn't gain any advantage at all. Ning Cheng, shocked by the violent murderous aura, quickly retreated and landed on the street. At the same time, he spat out a mouthful of blood. He didn't know what Duan Gantai was plotting, but seeing Duan Gantai's murderous aura, he vaguely grasped something. Moreover, Su Yukinghong believed that although Duan Gantai was powerful, he couldn't rush out of the Eternal Night Public Square's array formation in just 2 breaths. Even if he suddenly started, it would take him nearly 2 breaths to cross the distance to the Eternal Night Public Square. As for Ning Cheng, it was even more impossible. Since his debut, Duan Gantai had never suffered such grievances and depression. This cultivator named Ning Cheng, he would remember it. One day in the future, he would make sure to get back at him with interest. This time, he suffered a loss because of his carelessness. Before, every time he attacked, he would always calculate the opponent's strength. But this time, he actually neglected it. This was a mistake he would never make again in the future. Duan Gantai's murderous aura instantly suppressed him, although it couldn't make him vomit blood. But Ning Cheng could feel that if an ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivator encountered this kind of murderous aura, it wouldn't be impossible for him to vomit blood. He simply forced out a mouthful of blood to prevent Duan Gantai from knowing his strength. At this time, the 2 experts from the Su clan had just arrived at the place where Ning Cheng disappeared. The 2 looked at the starry sky while disappearing from their spiritual consciousness in horror and didn't know what to do. Chase after him. That would be a huge joke. He understood the meaning of the clan head's words. The Eternal Night Public Square's array formation was usually in a locked state, and ordinary people entering and leaving would not be affected at all. If someone moved too fast and passed through the public square's array formation within 2 breaths, the array formation would immediately lock down. Even if they tried to escape, only one person could escape. The other person would also end up locked in the Eternal Night Public Square. As for the one person who escaped, the Su clan could easily catch him. Regardless of whether his guess was true or not, he could not let Duan Gantai take the lead. It was a matter of life and death. Although they couldn't catch up to Ning Cheng, they at least saw how Ning Cheng disappeared. As for Duan Gantai, they didn't even know how he disappeared, let alone chase after him. Duan Gantai, on seeing Ning Cheng spit out a mouthful of blood due to his murderous aura, felt a little relieved. He wasn't surprised that Ning Cheng vomited blood because he knew his own strength. With his formidable strength, it was normal for him to vomit blood under such a sudden murderous aura. With Duan Gantai and Ning Cheng causing such a ruckus and even cursing each other on the street, it was impossible for the Su clan to not know about it. Taking himself as an example, with his current cultivation, if he suddenly attacked an ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivator with a killing move, that ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivator would definitely die. He could even take away the corpse of that ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivator. Duan Gantai ignored Su Baijiao's cries and rushed towards Ning Cheng. A powerful murderous aura swept out, forcing the surrounding onlookers to retreat. Boom boom boom. Traceless speed wasn't slow at all. The moment Ning Cheng brought it out, it tore through space. But even so, it still collided with Duan Gantai's broadsword, causing a violent explosion. Eternal Night City's Su clan, Su Yukinghong, received the news almost a dozen breaths after Ning Cheng and Duan Gantai started fighting. The white-haired man pondered for a moment before speaking up. Our Su clan isn't the only one who can use the Eternal Night Domain's aura-locking Grand Array. Besides, to keep 2 Heaven's Mandate cultivators, there's no need to make such a big fuss. Let them go first. Even if they have any tricks up their sleeves, they won't be able to walk out of the Eternal Night public square. At this time, Suyukinghong was sitting with a white-haired middle-aged man. When he received the news, he immediately asked, "Uncle Cheng, the two of them want to leave the Eternal Night domain and go to the Eternal Night public square's dueling tower. Should we let them out of the Eternal Night domain?" Ning Qing spat out a mouthful of blood and felt as if he had lost all his face. He angrily shouted, "Duan Gantai, don't think that you're so great just because you married into the Su clan. What's the use of sneak attacks? If this father doesn't fight with you on the street, you might have something to compensate, but I don't. If you have the guts, come with me to the Eternal Night dueling tower. I will let you know that without relying on the women of the Su clan, you are nothing." Chapter 662. After Ning Cheng's starry sky wheel flew at full speed, he no longer had any scruples. Ning Qing knew about the power of the starry sky wheel. Even if the entire Su clan was made up of eternal starry sky emperors, they would not be able to catch up to him. After flying at full speed for half a month, Ning Qing finally put away the starry sky wheel and replaced it with an ordinary flight-type weapon. This void was located between the plain and the plain. There were relatively few cultivators here, but it didn't mean that no one came here. Moreover, the cultivators who didn't die here were usually experts. Ning Qing did not want his starry sky wheel to end up being discovered for no reason. Moreover, he also did not want people to hunt him down. Although he didn't see how Duan Gantai escaped, Ning Qing felt sure that Duan Gantai had escaped. It was a kind of intuition. At this time, in addition to the lingering fear in his heart, he was also a little depressed. All along, he had been groping his way forward in his cultivation. The mysterious yellow formless was indeed unparalleled, at least he had never seen any cultivation method that could be compared to the mysterious yellow formless. However, it was also because of this that he lacked some of the most practical secret techniques. Sunset's twilight was one of them. He had risked his life to comprehend it from the time wilderness. However, for this method of escape, just relying on the twin wings of the heavenly clouds was definitely not enough. If the Eternal Night public square was a bit wider, then even if he used the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, he would not be able to rush out in one go, then he would truly be finished, unless he upgraded the twin wings of the heavenly clouds once again. The best material to upgrade the twin wings of the heavenly clouds to nirvana was the wind and thunder apricot tree. Of course, there were other materials, but none of them were as good as the wind and thunder apricot tree. Moreover, he only obtained 2 wind thunder apricot fruits. In the end, he didn't know who obtained the wind thunder apricot tree. Regardless of whether he could advance the twin wings of the heavenly clouds or not, Ning Qing felt that he should advance to the heaven-seated realm first. If he were a heaven-seated cultivator, then even if the Su clan trapped him in the Eternal Night domain, he would not be helpless. A few days later, Ning Qing once again found a huge void-fragmented star. This time, he didn't dig a cave like last time and slowly cultivate inside. He arranged several concealment and aura shielding array formations, before directly entering the mysterious yellow bead to cultivate. Ning Qing wasn't willing to use 10,000 permanent essence pills, but 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills were more than enough for him. Cultivating inside the mysterious yellow bead, one's entire body would be scoured by the origin aura. Not only would one's celestial essence chi absorption speed become faster, but one's perception would also become more powerful. Ning Qing was already a late-stage Heaven's Mandate cultivator, and in just a month, his celestial essence condensation had reached its limit, allowing his cultivation to reach the full circle of Heaven's Mandate realm. Out of the 1,000,000 perpetual moon pills, only a few 100,000 remained. However, after reaching the full circle of Heaven's Mandate realm, no matter how much Ning Qing absorbed the celestial essence chi, he could not make any progress. This situation was completely different from when he advanced from the Celestial Bridge realm to the Undead realm, and then from the Undead realm to the Heaven's Mandate realm. Previously, as long as he reached the limit, he could just crazily absorb the celestial essence chi, and then try to break through the cultivation barrier. If the first time wasn't enough, he would be able to break through the shackles of his cultivation and advance to a higher level. This time, Ning Qing knew that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't use this method to advance from heaven's mandate realm to heaven's seated realm. Not only was he completely unable to sense the barriers and obstacles in his cultivation, but he also had an intuition that his comprehension could not keep up. Under such circumstances, even if he piled up another 10 billion perpetual moon pills or even permanent essence pills in front of him, he would not be able to break through to the heaven-seated realm in a short time. At this time, not to mention touching the sky-seated realm, he didn't even know where the border was. This difference was not just 1 or 2 points, but the difference between heaven and earth. Ning Qing gave out a sigh and came out of the mysterious yellow bead, but did not continue cultivating. The gap between Destiny's 3 realms and Celestial River's 3 realms was not only the accumulation of cultivation, but also the accumulation of insights. He lacked an opportunity and also lacked a foundation. At this moment, Ning Qing had a feeling that if he wanted to break through heaven's mandate realm and advance to the heaven-seated realm, there were 2 ways. One was to find the severing filth shadowy pill, which he had seen in the time wilderness. It was an important medicinal pill that could help a cultivator break through to the heaven-seated realm. Or he could find the great heaven essence fruit to refine into the accordance heavenly pill. The accordance heavenly pill could also help a cultivator advance from heaven's mandate realm to the heaven-seated realm. The second way was to find the opportunity to advance to the heaven-seated realm. However, he had not experienced these things and did not know what this opportunity was. But because he cultivated the mysterious yellow formless, he vaguely understood that the second method was better than the first method. After advancing to the heaven-seated realm, one's strength would increase and one's potential would also increase. Maybe I should look for the great heaven essence fruit to refine the accordance heavenly pill, while looking for the opportunity to advance to the heaven-seated realm. Ning Qing muttered to himself. After making the decision, Ning Qing put away his array flags, brought out a middle-grade flight-type Dao artifact, and left the broken stars where he had gone into seclusion for more than a month. A few days later, a man in grey robes came to the place where Ning Qing had gone into seclusion. He carefully studied the place where Ning Qing had arranged the array formations before frowning and speaking to himself, "What's going on? There's obviously a mysterious yellow origin aura here." Ning Qing began his wandering life within the starry skies. Or rather, it was the beginning of his wandering life within the void. There were no starry skies within this positional crevice. Even if there were some planets, they were all in ruins. There were meteorite flows, storm maelstrom, and even void collapses. If one had to say that there was only one holy land for cultivation, then it would be the eternal night domain. Unfortunately, Ning Qing did not dare to go to the eternal night domain. Wandering within the void had no sense of time. After a year, Ning Qing did not need to put on any makeup at all. He had already turned into a bearded young man. Not in seclusion, wandering alone in the vast and boundless void was a kind of loneliness, but also a test of one's mind. Fortunately, Ning Qing still had Chasing Bull with him, which meant that he could chat with Chasing Bull when he had nothing to do. During this 1 year, Ning Qing's cultivation did not increase, but his foundation continued to accumulate. Although he still had a long way to go before reaching the heaven-seated realm, his view of the heaven-seated realm had completely changed from the past. Apart from that, his biggest gain was the successful nirvana of his Scarlet Crow flame. On this day, Ning Qing was searching for artifact crafting materials in a broken starland when a shadow of an airship swept past his spiritual consciousness. Chasing Bull also saw this shadow and immediately called out, "Master, I just saw someone fly past." Over the past year, Chasing Bull had been wandering the void with Ning Qing. Apart from mining ores and searching for perpetual moon pills, it had not seen anyone else. At this time, seeing someone fly past, even Chasing Bull felt a little excited. No need to look, that person flew back. Ning Qing stopped extracting artifact crafting materials and put away the Scarlet Crow flame. A void airship, which had just passed through his spiritual consciousness, flew back. Apparently, the other party also saw Ning Qing and Chasing Bull and deliberately returned. After a dozen breaths, an airship-type weapon landed on the broken star where Ning Cheng was. A slightly chubby male cultivator, a head shorter than Ning Cheng, walked out of the airship-type weapon. This person's cultivation was higher than Ning Cheng's, and Ning Cheng could tell at a glance that this person was a heaven-seated cultivator. Ning Cheng also felt that this cultivator had wandered through the void for a much longer time than him from the void aura emanating from him. I didn't expect to meet a fellow cultivator here. My name is Song Qingbua, and I've been wandering the void for more than 300 years. The short and chubby male cultivator had a smile on his face, which made people feel that he was a person without any danger. However, Ning Cheng knew that it was impossible to wander the void for hundreds of years without any danger. As for cultivators without any danger, they would have long since been eliminated in the void. My name is Ning Cheng, and I've been wandering the void for a long time. Ning Cheng cupped his fists and spoke politely. With his current cultivation and heritage, even if he couldn't beat this heaven-seated cultivator, he didn't need to fear him, let alone address him as senior. Seeing Ning Cheng address him as an equal, Song Qingbua's eyes showed a hint of surprise, but he quickly recovered and said, "Yes, you're a cultivator who hasn't even reached the heaven-seated realm, yet you managed to wander all the way here. It's not a simple matter in itself. Are you also heading to the Temple of Fallen Stars?" He didn't ask how long Ning Cheng had been wandering the void. With Ning Cheng's cultivation, he must have wandered for at least a few decades to reach this place. Was this place near the Temple of Fallen Stars? Ning Cheng felt surprised. He never planned to go to the Temple of Fallen Stars right now. It's not that he didn't want to, but his cultivation was too low. Although surprised, Ning Cheng still spoke up calmly, "I did plan to go to the Temple of Fallen Stars. But because I'm not confident, I decided to stay here for a while to gain experience." Is Brother Song also going to the Temple of Fallen Stars? I don't know anything about the Temple of Fallen Stars. While speaking, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness fell on the jade strip given to him by Duan Gantai. Sure enough, he saw that the Temple of Fallen Stars was indeed not far from here. Song Qingbua smiled, "Yes, among the wandering cultivators in this area, I, Song Qingbua, have a better understanding of the Temple of Fallen Stars. When I was in the Heaven's Mandate realm, I had already broken through the Temple of Fallen Stars. Although I had only just reached the temple's entrance, I still gained a lot. The only reason I could advance to the heaven-seated realm is because of the Temple of Fallen Stars. You should also be going to the Temple of Fallen Stars for the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, right? But you have to be prepared to fall at any time, hee. The Temple of Fallen Stars has the Great Heaven Essence Fruit?" Ning Cheng asked in surprise, but immediately explained, "Brother Song, I'm going to the Temple of Fallen Stars just to gain experience." "Does the Temple of Fallen Stars really have the Great Heaven Essence Fruit?" Song Qingbua, on seeing that Ning Cheng wasn't going to the Temple of Fallen Stars for the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, spoke up with a straight face, "That's right, the Temple of Fallen Stars does indeed have the Great Heaven Essence Fruit. Not only does it have the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, but it also has treasures even more precious than the Great Heaven Essence Fruit. If you're not going for the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, then I advise you not to go there." Ning Cheng cupped his fists and thanked him, "Many thanks, Brother Song. Originally, I just wanted to go there to gain experience, but I was still hesitating. Now that I know that the Temple of Fallen Stars has the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, I must go there." Song Qingbua felt slightly startled, but then laughed, "Yes, if there are no benefits, who would go to the Temple of Fallen Stars? It's fate that brought us together. Let's go to the Temple of Fallen Stars together, at least we would have a companion. What do you think?" Although Song Qingbua's cultivation was a full level higher than Ning Cheng, he didn't have the attitude of a powerhouse speaking to a weakling. Chapter 663. After Song Qingbua finished, he looked at Ning Cheng with a smile. An ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivator would never dare to team up with a heaven-seated cultivator. He really wanted to know if this Heaven's Mandate cultivator, who lived alone in the void, would dare to come with him to the Temple of Falling Stars. Ning Cheng didn't even think about it and spoke up, "Many thanks, Brother Song. This Ning is willing to go to the Temple of Falling Stars with Brother Song. To be honest, even if Song Chunbo was powerful, he was only on par with Shang Moyang. When he was in the undead realm, he could kill Shang Moyang with the help of various array formations. But now, even if he wasn't Song Chunbo's opponent, he still had the power to fight back. What's more, the two of them hadn't even fought each other yet, so he didn't know who was stronger and who was weaker. Moreover, his current strength was far from what he could compare to when he was in the undead realm. There was indeed an insurmountable gap between Heaven's Mandate realm and Heaven's Seated realm, but there was also an insurmountable gap between him and ordinary Heaven's Mandate cultivators. Good. Let's go. Song Chunbo laughed and gave Ning Qing a thumbs up before entering his flight-type weapon again. At the same time, he also drove the weapon to rush out. Ning Qing didn't even bring out his weapon. Instead, he stood on Chasing Bull's back and followed Song Chunbo. Song Chunbo had wandered the void for many years and naturally knew what cultivators feared the most. He didn't invite Ning Qing into his flight-type weapon. In fact, even if he invited Ning Qing wouldn't go up. Ning Qing wasn't afraid of Song Chunbo, but entering Song Chunbo's weapon was another matter altogether. He wasn't arrogant enough to casually board a heaven-seated cultivator's flight-type weapon. You have a good bull, but I'm afraid it's not a wind-seeking longevity bull, right? Song Chunbo's voice came from the front. Apparently, he could tell that Ning Qing's bull wasn't simple. Ning Qing chuckled, no, but it does have good speed. He didn't say that this bull was a wind-seeking heavenly bull. Even if Song Chunbo could tell, he wouldn't care. A demonic beast that recognized a master, no matter how good it was, would not have much use in snatching it. Although Song Chunbo was fast, Chasing Bull also wasn't slow. In just one day, Song Chunbo stopped. Ning Qing had the void coordinates of the Temple of Falling Stars, so he knew that he had arrived at the periphery of the Temple of Falling Stars. What shocked Ning was that he saw two incomparably thick pillars here. Each of the pillars was very thick and stood erect in the void. Ning Qing could not even tell where these two pillars extended to. At least, Ning Qing's spiritual consciousness could not sweep out to where these two pillars led to. Brother Song, I've never been to the Temple of Fallen Stars before. Why are there two pillars here? Ning Qing asked with cupped fists in confusion. Song Chunbo pointed to the two pillars and said, I heard that they existed at the beginning of the primal chaos. Generally, the space between positional planes and interfaces is extremely chaotic, which makes it impossible to survive for a long time. The reason why cultivators could survive at the intersection of the positional planes of the eternal night domain was because of these two pillars. As for where these two pillars came from, I don't know either. It was impossible for anyone to know where these two pillars led to. No one could follow the pillars to the other end. I can tell you one thing, the Temple of Fallen Stars is the easiest place to cross positional planes because of these two pillars. Ning Qing looked at the endless pillars and felt a sense of insignificance in his heart. He even suspected that the two cultivators who competed for the Purple Een Spirit Spring Bead came here to leave the Eternal Night Domain and enter another positional plane through this place. Brother Song, do we enter the Temple of Fallen Stars from the middle of these two pillars? Ning Qing asked as he pointed to the two incomparably thick pillars. You're right. If you want to enter the Temple of Fallen Stars, you must enter from the middle of these two pillars. The space behind these two pillars is extremely chaotic. Once you enter, you will have to be careful of your life. Song Chunbo nodded. Then when do we go in? Ning Qing asked. Song Chunbo put away his flight-type weapon and signaled Ning Qing not to worry. Don't worry, we'll wait for a while. I have an appointment with two friends, but they haven't come yet. Hearing that Song Chunbo had an appointment, Ning Qing put away Chasing Bull and stood to the side. He had heard about the Temple of Fallen Stars from Duan Gantai, and it was his first time here. As for the dangers inside the Temple of Fallen Stars, he didn't know anything about them. Following behind Song Chunbo, at least he didn't have to take the lead. Thinking that Song Chunbo was already a heaven-seated powerhouse and must have experienced the process of advancing to the heaven-seated realm, Ning Qing decided to ask, Brother Song, I want to advance to the heaven-seated realm, but I've already reached the full circle of heaven's mandate realm for a long time. Yet, I still feel that the heaven-seated realm is out of reach. Brother Song is already a heaven-seated powerhouse. Ning Cheng would like to ask Brother Song, how can one touch the edge of the heaven-seated realm in the heaven's mandate realm? Song Chungbua looked at Ning Cheng from top to bottom and smiled, this is my experience. Ning Cheng took out an ore and gave it to Song Chungbua, Brother Song, this is an artifact crafting material I obtained by chance. I'll give it to Brother Song. Song Chungbua initially didn't care about it, but when his spiritual consciousness swept over the ore, he suddenly exclaimed, this is a thunder firmament crystal. You actually have such a good thing. The thunder firmament crystal was a starry sky grade 9 artifact crafting material. Ning Cheng had obtained it on his way to Grand Culmination Starry Sky. This thing wasn't very valuable to him, so he decided to give it to Song Chungbua. After Song Chungbua finished speaking, he didn't wait for Ning Cheng to answer and quickly put away the thunder firmament crystal. Ning Cheng had wandered the void for so many years, so it wasn't surprising for him to have some good things. Since Song Chungbua accepted Ning Cheng's things, he couldn't help but feel guilty about it. After pondering over it for a while, he spoke, in fact, advancing to the heaven-seated realm isn't very difficult. As long as you have the severing filth obscuring heavenly pill or the accordance heavenly pill, or even other starry sky opportunities, you can advance to the heaven-seated realm. However, there are strong and weak cultivators in the heaven-seated realm, and it's not something that can be solved with a single medicinal pill. I didn't understand it back then and used the convenience of medicinal pills to advance to the heaven-seated realm. But it's too late to regret it now. Ning Cheng quickly asked, does that mean you can't use medicinal pills to advance to the heaven-seated realm? Song Chungbua showed a smile, advancing to the heaven-seated realm without using medicinal pills. Ha, you can't even be considered a genius anymore. You're simply a genius among geniuses. You haven't understood what I meant by not using medicinal pills. It means that if you haven't comprehended the heaven-seated realm, or touched the heaven-seated realm. If you use medicinal pills to forcibly raise your cultivation to the heaven-seated realm, it would be like pulling up seedlings to help them grow. It would suppress your future potential indefinitely. Ning Cheng seemed to understand something and subconsciously spoke up, isn't it the right way to use medicinal pills to advance to the heaven-seated realm when you have some understanding of the heaven-seated realm? Yes, since you can wander the void with heaven's mandate cultivation, you really do have some insight. Reaching the heaven-seated realm is equivalent to having one's own Tao, or rather, having the direction of one's own Tao. If you can't even figure out your own Tao, forcibly advancing to the heaven-seated realm would be akin to neglecting the essentials. Although Song Chungbua didn't explain it in detail, Ning Cheng fully understood it. The reason why he couldn't touch the heaven-seated realm wasn't because his cultivation wasn't high enough, but because he didn't have enough insights. He only had a vague idea of his own Tao, but it was also a very weak idea. Now that Song Chungbua mentioned it, he once again remembered the returning to one leather scroll in his storage ring. Previously, under Zhongli Baiqi's reminder, he had a vague understanding of it. But now, the longer he stayed in the heaven's mandate realm, the clearer this understanding became. He used to think that even if he comprehended the returning to one spirit technique, it wouldn't be as powerful as his sunset's twilight. But now, he suddenly felt that his original understanding was a bit wrong. Returning to one could indeed be regarded as a spirit technique, but returning to one was not just a spirit technique. The things he cultivated were extremely complicated, and he had to use a hammer here and there. If he could use the returning to one leather scroll to integrate all the things he cultivated and form them into something of his own, wouldn't it give him a clearer direction towards the heaven-seated realm? Perhaps this was the direction of Tao that Song Chungbua mentioned. The more Ning Cheng understood, the closer he felt to the heaven-seated realm. He even had an idea that if he continued to stay in this place for half a year to a year, he might really be able to touch the heaven-seated realm. Brother Song. Why is there a puny heaven's mandate cultivator here? A hoarse voice interrupted Ning Cheng's enlightenment. Ning Cheng suddenly opened his eyes. Immediately, he found two more people here, a man and a woman. The male cultivator had dark skin and a hoarse voice. Most likely, he was the one who spoke those words a moment ago. The female cultivator had fair skin and a beautiful appearance. Although she did not deliberately dress up, her curvaceous figure was no worse than Su Baijiao's. Both of them had heaven-seeded cultivation, but the male cultivator looked slightly older. "Oh, this is a friend I met not long ago. His name is Ning Cheng. He happened to be planning to enter the Temple of Fallen Stars, so I invited him to come with me." Song Qingbua smiled and explained to the two cultivators. After that, he turned to Ning Cheng and said, "Dao friend Ning Cheng, these are my two friends, Bian Shiyan and Qi Qiubing. They are also the people I was waiting for. Now that everyone is here, let's go in together." Bian Shiyan's face sank slightly, but he still spoke up in a hoarse voice, "Brother Song, I don't have an opinion on going in together, but I don't agree with teaming up with a Heaven's Mandate cultivator. If it were any other place, it wouldn't matter. But in a place like the Temple of Fallen Stars, we might lose our lives if we don't pay attention. One more person doesn't mean more assurance, but more danger." Ning Cheng could reach the vicinity of the Temple of Fallen Stars with just Heaven's Mandate cultivation. Song Qingbua already had a good opinion of Ning Cheng, plus Ning Cheng also gave him a thunder firmament crystal. As such, he did not mind bringing Ning Cheng into the Temple of Fallen Stars. Bian Shiyan's words made him frown slightly. After listening to Song Qingbua's words, Ning Cheng had already gained a lot. Besides, he also knew that even if he teamed up with Song Qingbua's trio, these three heaven-seeded cultivators would not help him if he encountered any danger. Now that Song Qingbua and Bian Shiyan had different opinions about him, Ning Cheng immediately spoke up, "Please, I'll go in alone." Chapter 664. Song Qingbua, Bian Shiyan and Qi Qiubing seemed to have come here for a very important matter. Now that he heard Ning Cheng's words, he also didn't want to have a conflict with Bian Shiyan over Ning Cheng's matters. Therefore, he simply spoke up, "In that case, we'll go in first. Dao friend Ning, please be careful. Remember, you can't use your spiritual consciousness inside the Temple of Fallen Stars, and your cultivation will also be suppressed by the laws here." After Song Qingbua finished speaking, he passed through the gap between the two pillars and did not greet Bian Shiyan. Apparently, he felt a little dissatisfied with Bian Shiyan's words. Seeing Song Qingbua enter, Bian Shiyan and Qi Qiubing also followed. From beginning to end, Qi Qiubing did not say a word. Ning Cheng did not immediately follow them, but rather prepared some things that might be useful, and put them on his waist. Song Qingbua said that after entering, he would not be able to use his spiritual consciousness, and even his cultivation would be suppressed. This made Ning Cheng feel very grateful towards Song Qingbua. If he couldn't even use the storage ring after entering, what if he needed elixirs and magic treasures? Because he could not use his spiritual consciousness, Ning Cheng had to take out the Nirvana spear to protect himself. In the absence of spiritual consciousness, the Nirvana spear would definitely be more powerful compared to ordinary weapons. After everything was ready, Ning Cheng passed through the two pillars and entered the Temple of Fallen Stars. As soon as Ning Cheng came in, a violent storm swept over. Ning Cheng simply could not stand firm, and was about to be swept away by this blade-like storm. Countless gravel hit his body, causing him a faint pain. When he looked back, there were no more pillars behind him. This meant that even if he wanted to retreat now, it was impossible. Sure enough, Ning Cheng couldn't use his spiritual consciousness. Even with his starry sky sea of consciousness, he couldn't use his spiritual consciousness in this place. He could only barely stabilize his body and land. Only now did he have a chance to look around. Everything around him was gray and undulating like the Gobi Desert, with gravel and undulating stone mounds. The howling wind swept over the boundless gravel and gravel bags, sweeping up the gravel and sending it whistling past. From time to time, these gravel would hit Ning Cheng's body. If Ning Cheng was not a Nirvana cultivator in the body-forging realm, then these gravel would have definitely injured him. Fortunately, these gales were not spatial storms. There were no spatial elements involved. They were just gales. Occasionally, one or two huge stones flew towards him, but Ning Qing managed to block them with his nirvana spear. Ning Qing took a few steps forward, completely without any sense of direction. After entering this place, it was as if he had entered a huge desert. However, the sand here was not fine sand, but gravel. Since entering the Yixing mainland, Ning Qing had experienced a lot of crises. Strictly speaking, the strong wind in the shattered stone desert was nothing much. When he first entered the Time Wilderness, he also experienced the suppression of his spiritual consciousness in the Sea of Twilight. However, by relying on himself, he could slowly stretch out his spiritual consciousness, relying on his starry sky sea of consciousness. At this time, Ning Qing was carefully moving forward while constantly stretching out his spiritual consciousness. Ning Cheng's efforts were not in vain. A day later, he finally stretched out a part of his spiritual consciousness. From the initial 1 foot, it slowly grew to 10 feet. On the 10th day, his spiritual awareness could already extend to about 10 feet, and at this time, the surrounding storm also gradually weakened. He seemed to have reached the edge of the rocky desert. Ning Qing had just breathed in a sigh of relief when his spiritual consciousness swept past a very fast spatial blade light. In desperation, Ning Qing could only fall on his back, while the spatial blade light brushed past his chest. Ning Qing broke out in a cold sweat. If he could not extend out his spiritual consciousness, even if this attack did not split him in half, he would not have felt any better. Moreover, he still had the nirvana spear in his hand, otherwise, it would have been even more dangerous. Sure enough, as Song Qingbue said, this place was filled with dangers everywhere. After coming in, one had to be prepared to fall at any time. He did not encounter any danger before because he was still on the periphery. But after entering the inner area, he suddenly encountered a spatial wind blade. This was just the first one, but there must be more behind it. The spatial wind blade almost split him in half, but he could not find even a shadow of the great heaven essence fruit. In Ning Cheng's view, in this kind of endless gravel desert, wanting to grow spiritual grasses, was something that was absolutely impossible. If Song Qingbue did not lie to him, then he must have gone in the wrong direction. Unfortunately, Ning Qing did not have a map of the Temple of Fallen Stars. As such, the only thing he could do was to keep moving forward. The storm that swept away the gravel had disappeared, and the abrupt spatial wind blades grew even denser. These spatial wind blades were traceless and without warning. For cultivators with spiritual consciousness, they did not pose much of a threat. But for cultivators who could not extend out their spiritual consciousness, these spatial wind blades posed a constant threat to their lives. Although Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness could now extend out to about 10 feet, he still remained cautious. A range of 10 feet was not a safe distance for his spiritual consciousness. After walking for a few dozen miles, Ning Qing found that the Gobi Desert still remained under his feet, but the storm had completely disappeared. One statue after another lay strewn across the gravel beach. Occasionally, half of a pillar stood crookedly between these broken statues, giving the place a desolate look. Right at this moment, a shrill scream sounded out. In this empty place without any obstacles, Ning Qing could hear it clearly. This scream belonged to Song Qingbue. Knowing that something had happened to Song Qingbue, Ning Qing immediately became even more vigilant. He slightly deviated his direction and moved in the direction of Song Qingbue's scream. If he could, he did not mind helping Song Qingbue. After half an incense stick worth of time, Ning Qing stopped and looked at the statue in front of him. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. In front of him was a statue that had lost half of its face and was stuck in the ground at a slanted angle. Even its feet could not be seen, and it only had one arm. Ning Qing had seen too many of these statues, so he did not need to feel a chill. What made Ning Qing feel a chill was not the statue, but the statue's hand. The statue's hand was dripping with blood, and a piece of rag hung from one of its fingers. Ning Qing and Song Qingbue had only been separated for a few days, so he could tell at a glance that this piece of rag belonged to Song Qingbue. Ning Qing felt sure that Song Qingbua's scream was because the statue in front of him had grabbed him. A clay statue actually managed to grab Song Qingbua, a heaven-seated powerhouse, and even injure Song Qingbua. It was just too strange. As Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness passed through the clay statue, he quickly felt that something was wrong. This statue was indeed made of clay, but it contained clay blood vessels, clay bones, and even a clay heart. Ning Cheng had entered the starry skies for cultivation, and his nerves had already become extremely tough. But this clay statue still made his scalp tingle. As an array formation master and an artifact crafting master, although he did not know how to refine puppets, it did not mean that he did not know how to refine puppets. This statue was not a puppet, absolutely not. He did not see any array formation engraved on this statue, nor did he see any traces of refining. Thinking of this strange scene, Ning Cheng was just about to take a step back when his surroundings suddenly solidified. Immediately, the space around him no longer seemed to belong to him. The space around him suddenly caved in, and he immediately approached the blood-stained palm of the statue. Laws of space. Ning Cheng cried out in shock. This palm seemed like it wanted to cut open his abdomen. In a panic, Ning Cheng no longer cared about anything else and smashed the Nirvana spear in his hand towards the palm. It was his most powerful spirit technique, Sunset's Twilight. The collapsing space stopped in an instant, and the statue's palm finally failed to pass through Ning Cheng's chest. Ning Cheng's Nirvana spear also took advantage of this momentary pause to strike the statue's palm. Bang! A dull sound emerged, and Ning Cheng was blasted away by the powerful backlash. Seeing that he was about to hit another statue, Ning Cheng once again swung the Nirvana spear in his hand. With another impact, Ning Cheng barely managed to land on the gravel ground. Ning Cheng clenched the Nirvana spear in his hand, feeling horrified in his heart. Just now, the clay statue had compressed the space around him, not because of the laws of space. It was just like his maximal flame spirit technique, which simulated a space-type spirit technique. If it really was a space-type spirit technique, then even his Sunset's Twilight would not have been able to reverse the situation. What shocked Ning Cheng was not the simulated space-type spirit technique, but the clay statue's palm. When his Nirvana spear and the clay statue's palm collided, Ning Cheng clearly felt that this was not a clay statue, but a corporeal body. In other words, although these clay statues looked like statues, they had corporeal bodies just like humans. Chapter 665. Ning Cheng couldn't help but feel some fear when he thought about how he had to pass through so many statues. These statues could make a move. If he happened to stand next to one of the statues and that statue attacked him, how could he escape? Knowing that these statues could make sneak attacks, Ning Cheng tried to avoid getting too close to the statues. However, he had no interest in figuring out what was going on. His cultivation was just average, and he would thank the heavens if he could protect himself in this place. Dao friend Ning. Just as Ning Cheng was about to leave this place filled with statues, a faint voice called out to him. Ning Cheng felt very familiar with this voice. He immediately turned around and saw a statue different from the ones around him. When he saw this statue clearly, he couldn't believe it and spoke up in shock, "Brother Song?" This statue turned out to be Song Qingbua. But unlike the other statues, the skin on Song Qingbua's hands only had a faint gray color, not the grayish-black of the other statues. Moreover, the skin on Song Qingbua's face still had some color to it, which was completely different from the other clay statues. "Brother Song, what's going on with you?" Although Ning Cheng asked Song Qingbua, he had already vaguely guessed some of the reasons. Song Qingbua's voice grew weaker. "I don't have much time, please do me a favor." "Wait." Ning Cheng knew that Song Qingbua wanted to leave some last words. He immediately called out to Song Qingbua, "Can I save you in this situation? I have 2 transforming spiritual vines in my ring, which can assimilate the spiritual qi in my body." Song Qingbua didn't continue to explain and spoke up with a sincere look, "I'm too late. You can have these transforming spiritual vines, please help me deliver a message." Song Chunbwa spoke until here, but because he was too weak, he couldn't continue. He even closed his eyes. At this time, the color on his hands had turned darker, and even his face had turned darker. As for the rosy color on his face, it had completely disappeared. Ning Cheng raised his hand and grabbed Song Chunbwa's ring. Using his spiritual consciousness thorn, he quickly broke through the restrictions placed on Song Chunbwa's ring. Song Chunbwa's cultivation was higher than Ning Cheng's, but his array formations and spiritual consciousness were not necessarily stronger than Ning Cheng's. Ning Cheng easily broke through the restrictions placed on his ring and opened Song Chunbwa's ring. Ning Cheng understood why Song Chunbwa did not let him use the transforming spiritual vine to save him. It was because he was worried that Ning Cheng would not do such a thing. When faced with the death of a sky-seated expert, others would only think of occupying the ring of this sky-seated expert. Who would bother to save him? Secondly, he also knew that he couldn't open the ring of a heaven-seated expert. There was no divine sense in here, so how could he open the ring? Even with divine sense, a heaven's mandate realm cultivator wouldn't be able to open the ring of a heaven realm powerhouse in a short time. However, it was clear that he did not understand Ning Cheng at all. He did not know that Ning Cheng could easily open his ring, nor did he know that Ning Cheng would save him. Even if Ning Cheng had never seen the transforming spiritual rattan before, as a grade 6 celestial river pill king, he could easily find the transforming spiritual rattan in Song Chunbwa's ring. There were indeed 2 transforming spiritual vines. Ning Cheng took out one of the transforming spiritual vines and raised his hand to melt the transforming spiritual vine into a few drops of spiritual liquid before sending it into Song Chunbwa's mouth. In just a few breaths, Ning Cheng watched in shock as Song Chunbwa's sculpture-like body slowly softened. The gray on his face gradually faded, and the color of blood returned to his face. The grayness started to recede from his face and soon extended to his hands. The grayness on his hands also quickly weakened, just like melting ice and snow. Song Chunbwa opened his eyes, and his eyes flashed with a hint of surprise and gratitude. Apparently, he knew that Ning Cheng had fed him the transforming spiritual vine's spiritual liquid. However, this was not the time to speak words of gratitude. He quickly closed his eyes and started circulating his spiritual qi. With Song Chunbwa's active cooperation, the grayness on his body receded even faster. After an incense stick worth of time, Song Chunbwa opened his eyes again and gave out a long sigh before standing up. After recovering, Song Chunbwa bowed to Ning Cheng and said, "Brother Ning, many thanks for saving my life. Without you, I, Song Chunbwa, would have already died." Ning Cheng smiled and returned Song Chunbwa's ring to Song Chunbwa before speaking, "Brother Song, we are friends, so it would be too much to thank me. But what the hell is going on? You almost turned into a sculpture. And since you have the transforming spiritual vine, why did you put it in the ring?" Ning Cheng couldn't figure it out. Since Song Chunbwa couldn't use his spiritual consciousness, wouldn't it be useless to put the transforming spiritual vine in the ring? Song Chunbwa gave out a sigh, "Brother Ning, let's talk about this later. I, Song Chunbwa, am the luckiest person in my life to have a friend like Brother Ning. I won't say much about other things, but if Brother Ning has any requests in the future, just let me know. I will never refuse even half a word." Not only did Ning Cheng not covet his ring, but he also saved him. In this cruel place, one could say that Ning Cheng's kindness was as high as the sky. What's more, he had already planned to leave the ring to Ning Cheng. It's just that he didn't have the time to say his last words. Ning Cheng waved his hand, "Brother Song, please don't treat me like an outsider. Let's talk about the sculptures here. Were these sculptures transformed from cultivators?" Song Chunbwa nodded with a solemn expression, "Yes, these sculptures were transformed from the cultivators who came here. However, most of them are sculptures of dead people, such as cultivators like me. If Brother Ning hadn't saved me, I would have completely turned into a sculpture and would never wake up again. The sculptures that can still attack people are all powerhouses with extreme cultivation. These powerhouses might have been statues for countless years, but they can still attack opponents who approach them. Ning Qing sucked in a breath of cold air. Even with Song Chunbu's cultivation in the heaven-seated realm, he could still turn into a sculpture and turn into ashes. Even after countless years, these sculptures could still attack people. What kind of cultivation did they have? Were they all powerhouses above the eternal realm? No wonder Brother Ning can roam the void alone and can even use his spiritual consciousness outside the Temple of Fallen Stars. At least, I have never seen it before. This Temple of Fallen Stars is also called the Temple of Fallen Stars, but this place is just the periphery of the Temple of Fallen Stars. For cultivators who don't understand, the most dangerous thing here might be the spatial wind blades. But in fact, the most dangerous thing here are the clay sculptures. If Brother Ning hadn't taken action, I would have already died. Song Chunbu still felt grateful towards Ning Qing. If Ning Qing were his teammate, then he might have had a slight chance of saving him. However, Ning Qing was just a passerby he knew. Ning Qing smiled, "Brother Song, you don't have to worry about such a trivial matter. Doesn't it mean that whoever those sculptures attack would be assimilated into a sculpture?" "Yes, but it doesn't mean that one would turn into a sculpture if they attack you. Instead, if they attack you and make you bleed, you would definitely turn into a sculpture. Once you get attacked by the sculptures, you must take out the transforming spiritual vines as soon as possible, otherwise, there would be no hope. I originally had a total of 4 transforming spiritual vines, but I left 2 outside. Unfortunately, a villain plotted against me. Alas, let's not talk about it anymore." Song Chunbu still felt some lingering fear when he answered. Ning Qing guessed that something had happened between him and his teammates, but Ning Qing didn't ask about it. Just when he was about to ask about the situation inside the Temple of Fallen Stars, Song Chunbu took the initiative to speak up. "The statue gravel beach is just the outermost edge of the Temple of Fallen Stars. Beyond that is the wood transformation forest. The last time I obtained a great heaven essence fruit, it was at the periphery of the wood transformation forest. Brother Ning, you must not enter the wood transformation forest. Even if you have spiritual consciousness, you can only wander around the periphery. If you enter, you will die without a doubt." Ning Qing asked in doubt, "Brother Song, is the wood transformation forest the same as this statue gravel beach? As long as you get entangled by the wood-attributed things inside, your entire body will turn into wood?" Song Chunbu's expression turned even more solemn. "Yes, and the wood transformation forest is different from the statue gravel beach. The sculptures here are not very densely packed, and there are even fewer sculptures that take the initiative to attack. But in the wood transformation forest, there are vegetation everywhere. If you are not careful, you will end up getting entangled and unable to escape. As long as you can't escape, you will turn into a piece of wood within a dozen breaths. Moreover, the transforming spiritual vines have no effect on wood transformation. If you wander around the periphery of the wood transformation forest, you will eventually encounter the great heaven essence fruit. Many thanks for Brother Song's reminder. Otherwise, I might have fallen for it." Ning Qing sighed with emotion. Saving others was the same as saving oneself. This sentence really did make some sense. Otherwise, if he had rushed into the wood transformation forest, how could he still be alive? Song Chunbu returned the transforming spiritual vine Ning Qing gave him to Ning Qing and said, "Brother Ning, I'm going out. I found this transforming spiritual vine outside the wood transformation forest. You can keep it." "Brother Song, are you not going to go in?" Ning Qing asked. Song Chunbu shook his head, "I'm not going in. Others have already taken away what I'm looking for. It doesn't make any sense for me to go in." Ning Qing did not continue to speak. Since Song Chunbu did not want to go in, then he would go in alone. "Brother Ning, before you leave, I have some experience to share with you." Song Chunbu took the initiative to speak to Ning Qing. "First, don't think that the sculptures here only have the function of sneak attacking cultivators and turning them into mud. In fact, some of the sculptures here are very valuable. Because these sculptures might have been people with great spirit techniques, their mud sculptures contain powerful laws of spirit techniques. These laws of spirit techniques can be comprehended by others. Moreover, some of the sculptures might look like they no longer have anything on the surface. But in fact, many things are hidden within their bodies. Many thanks for Brother Song's reminder. Ning Qing knew that some knowledge could not be bought in this place. Song Qingbo pointed to the distance. Second, the wood transformation forest is the closest forest to the Temple of Falling Stars. As long as you pass through the wood transformation forest, you might be able to enter the Temple of Falling Stars. I heard that the Temple of Falling Stars contains countless starry sky treasures. However, your cultivation is still too low right now, so I suggest that you don't have any ideas about the Temple of Falling Stars for the time being. Take care of yourself, I'm leaving now. By the way, when you go out, you don't have to worry about the direction. As long as you keep walking along the path you came from, you will eventually be able to walk out of those two giant pillars. I'm going to find that villain to settle accounts with. If I don't die, we can meet again in the Eternal Night City. Song Qingbo finished, cupped his fists towards Ning Qing, and quickly retreated. Chapter 666. After Song Qingbo left, Ning Qing carefully avoided the statues on the gravel beach. As for what Song Qingbo said, Ning Qing didn't even think about using these statues to comprehend spirit techniques. Song Qingbo shouldn't have lied to him. Maybe he could really comprehend some spirit techniques using these statues. However, Ning Qing felt that it was completely unnecessary for him. Not to mention that his current cultivation was not enough to comprehend spirit techniques using these statues. Even his own Sunset's Twilight spirit technique, he had yet to fully comprehend it. He had only touched the surface of the laws of time, and it couldn't even be said to be the laws of time. At best, he could compress time infinitely in a split second. It was not static at all. If he had the time to comprehend the spirit techniques of the statues, he might as well find a place to comprehend the time stones. This gravel beach was not small, coupled with Ning Qing slowing down his own speed, it took him a long time to cross this gravel beach. He also observed some of the statues along the way. A few of them seemed to give off some strange fluctuations, but most of them were like clay sculptures without any movement. As for the rings or weapons on the fingers of the statues, Ning Qing did not see any of them. Although he slowed down, Ning Qing did not find anything. At least his spiritual consciousness could stretch out to nearly 300 feet. On the fifth day, Ning Qing saw a patch of green. He estimated that he should have reached the periphery of the wood transformation forest. Moving forward a few dozen meters, Ning Qing stood outside a lush green forest. Rich celestial essence spiritual chi spread out from the forest, and a breeze blew from an unknown place, causing the vegetation to sway slightly. From this, one could imagine that if one could find a place to cultivate in this forest, the effects would definitely be very good. Ning Qing gave out a dark sigh. Entering this place to cultivate, one could forget about it. If not for Song Qingbo's reminder, he would never have thought that this forest would be so dangerous. Once a person entered, they would be turned into wood, not to mention cultivation. On the periphery of the wood transformation forest, one could see some starry sky spirit grasses from time to time. Moreover, these starry sky spirit grasses were not of low grade. Reaching the edge of the wood transformation forest, Ning Qing had already achieved half of his goal. He had no idea how long the edge of the wood transformation forest was, at least his spiritual consciousness couldn't sweep to the end. As long as he wandered around the edge, then just as Song Qingbo said, he might be able to find the great heaven essence fruit. As for asking that woman named Ji Shi for the purple Yin spirit spring bead, Ning Qing knew that even if he wanted it, it would be useless. Not to mention that he couldn't find Ji Shi, even if he did, so what? According to Gong Yezhua, with Ji Shi's cultivation, she might be able to crush him with a single finger. Ning Qing carefully walked along the periphery of the wood transformation forest, and along the way he had to bypass some of the statues that had fallen to the ground. After 2 hours, Ning Qing only obtained a few ordinary grade 7 starry sky spiritual grasses. Not to mention the great heaven essence fruit, he didn't even see a spiritual transformation vine. Ning Cheng could also guess in his heart that the good things in this place should have already been taken away by the people who came here first. As for the things that were left behind, they were not particularly precious. If he wanted to have the same kind of luck as Song Chengbua, it would be impossible. Ning Cheng once again moved closer to the wood-transforming forest, while simultaneously extending his spiritual consciousness into the depths of the wood-transforming forest. Sure enough, when Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness penetrated into the evolution wood forest, he immediately saw a lot of good things. Back on the floating starland, countless cultivators had fought over the essence-harmonizing celestial fruit trees. Ning Cheng saw several of them in just a short time. He also saw a lot of the grade 8 starry sky body-forging spiritual grass, the ascending dragon orchid, which he had seen in the Su clan. As for the spiritual transformation vine that Song Chengbua had obtained, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept through a large area. Moreover, this was only the periphery. If he entered this forest, how many good things would he find? Ning Cheng felt a little fiery in his heart, but he still retained his rationality. Although these things were good, he couldn't obtain them with his current ability. No matter how good these things were, he needed to be alive to enjoy them. If he lost his life, what would be the use of obtaining them? Facing so many good things but unable to touch them, Ning Cheng felt helpless in his heart. He was about to forcibly remove his spiritual consciousness when a stalk of spiritual grass attracted his attention. This stalk of spiritual grass had a red fruit on it. Ning Cheng knew that this fruit was called the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, which was exactly what he was looking for. Whether he could refine the accordance heavenly pill was another matter, but without the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, he would never be able to refine the accordance heavenly pill. Ning Cheng calculated the distance between the Great Heaven Essence Fruit and the edge of the wood transformation forest and found that it was about 15 feet away. If he used the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, he could suddenly rush over and grab the Great Heaven Essence Fruit before retreating. However, Ning Cheng did not know how dangerous the wood transformation forest was. In case the plants in this wood transformation forest reacted quickly, and he ended up trapped as soon as he entered, it would be the end for him. If he turned into a tree here, he probably wouldn't be as lucky as Song Chengbua, with no one coming to save him. Just in case, Ning Cheng brought out a flying sword. Compared to others, his advantage was that he could use his spiritual consciousness. Although his spiritual consciousness was limited, the flying sword still managed to approach the Great Heaven Essence Fruit. However, before the flying sword could bring back the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, a few vines wrapped around the flying sword and disappeared without a trace. Using the flying sword to pick up the Great Heaven Essence Fruit obviously wouldn't work. Unfortunately, his spiritual consciousness was limited in this place and couldn't simulate a celestial essence palm. Ning Cheng stood in place and hesitated for a full incense stick worth of time before finally deciding to do it himself. Since entering the starry skies as a true cultivator, nothing good could be obtained without effort. Since he came late, he should be aware of the risks involved. If it turned out to be too dangerous, he would immediately enter the mysterious yellow bead. Compared to others, he had to take a lot less risks. According to his speed, it would only take a breath of time to go in and come out. He had also seen the speed at which the vines wrapped around the flying sword. It was so slow that even if he went back and forth a few times, it wouldn't be able to stop him. After Ning Cheng figured out the route to go in and the route to come out, he took a deep breath and quickly activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds. After activating the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, Ning Cheng's figure remained in the same place, while he had already crossed a distance of more than 20 feet. This process took less than a breath of time. Even so, when Ning Cheng's hand had just reached out to grab the Great Heaven Essence Fruit, a vine suddenly appeared in front of him out of thin air. This vine instantly wrapped around his hand. This speed was many times faster than when it wrapped around the flying sword. Ning Cheng was horrified in his heart. The vines in this place changed their speed according to the speed of the intruder. At this time, Ning Cheng did not even have the time to grab the Great Heaven Essence Fruit. Activating the twin wings of the heavenly clouds once again, he wanted to retreat. However, the vines were like sharp blades. Even if Ning Cheng had a tough body, he could not resist the penetration of the vines. The vines quickly penetrated under Ning Cheng's skin. Although he activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds, because the vines wrapped around his wrist, he could not move at all. Just as Ning Cheng activated the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and wanted to retreat, the vines once again wrapped around his other hand and feet. At the same time, a few thick vines wrapped around his waist. It was as if they had set up a trap. These vines seemed to have incomparable intelligence, not allowing Ning Cheng to have even half a chance to struggle. Ning Cheng no longer dared to think about breaking free and quickly entered the mysterious yellow bead. Now that his body was almost completely surrounded by vines, even if his spiritual consciousness was not imprisoned, it would still be difficult for him to enter the mysterious yellow bead, not to mention that his spiritual consciousness was gradually weakening. From the moment Ning Cheng rushed in to grab the great heaven essence fruit to the moment the vines completely wrapped around him, only 2 breaths had passed. At this time, Ning Cheng, who had completely lost his freedom, calmed down. He knew that it was useless to panic. Feeling a burst of numbness coming from his wrist, Ning Cheng guessed that in just a few moments, his entire body would turn into a tree or a vine. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept into his true spirit world. He wanted to see if Chasing Bull and the exploding golden wasps could do anything. Chasing Bull apparently felt the dangerous aura and hid in a corner while trembling. Master was so powerful, but he had already locked it up. Once Master wanted it to go out, it would just be sending itself to its death. Ning Cheng originally wanted to ask Chasing Bull for help, but his wrist seemed to have turned into wood. However, when his spiritual consciousness fell into the true spirit world, the first thing he saw was not Chasing Bull or the exploding golden wasps, but the underworld crow ghost rattan. The underworld crow ghost rattan grew thicker, and its vines stretched out like a canopy covering the sky. Not only was it verdant, but it also gave off a murderous aura. Ning Cheng's heart suddenly moved. Since the underworld crow ghost rattan recognized him as its master in the 9x9 celestial scryer tower, he had never used this ghost rattan. One reason was that although the ghost rattan recognized him as its master, its strength was still too low for him to use. Another reason was that he was not used to using the ghost rattan against enemies. Feeling Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness sweeping over, the underworld crow ghost rattan quickly revealed a flattering aura, whether it was inside the mysterious yellow bead or the true spirit world. It only had one boss, and that was Ning Cheng. Although Chasing Bull looked proud of itself, Chasing Bull did not even dare to provoke the exploding golden wasps, let alone talk to the ghost rattan. However, in front of Ning Cheng, the underworld crow ghost rattan did not dare to have even half a thought. With just a thought from Ning Cheng, it would turn into flying ash. Thinking of the scene of the underworld crow ghost rattan crazily absorbing the wood's spiritual source in the celestial scryer tower, Ning Cheng immediately called out the underworld crow ghost rattan with his spiritual consciousness. More and more vines now entangled him. If he did not find help, he would die. As soon as the underworld crow ghost rattan came out, it immediately felt the boundless and rich aura of the wood's spiritual source. The moment Ning Cheng called it out, the underworld crow ghost rattan immediately gave off a joyful aura and extended its vine branches. These vine branches were like maggots that penetrated into the vegetation around Ning Cheng. For the underworld crow ghost rattan, it had never encountered such a rich wood spiritual source that even contained the aura of laws. Although it had eaten a good meal in the celestial scryer tower, the wood's spiritual source inside was not of a high grade. Moreover, the quantity was also limited. As such, it could not satisfy its craving. This time, the terrifying and crazy wood spiritual source felt like a super feast for it. Chapter 667. Ning Cheng watched in shock as the vines wrapping around him withered away. Even his wrist, which had almost turned into lignification, reverted to its original state because of the underworld crow ghost rattan's crazy absorption of the surrounding plants. In just a dozen breaths, Ning Cheng relaxed and stood up again. The vines wrapping around his body looked as if they had been burned by fire and withered. Ning Qing gently shook, and the vines wrapping around him turned into fragments and fell to the ground. How could he regain his freedom so easily? Ning Qing couldn't believe it. However, as soon as he saw the plants around him withering at a speed visible to the naked eye, he understood that he had truly regained his freedom. The underworld crow ghost Rattan's power left him in disbelief. At this time, it would be too easy for Ning Qing to leave the wood transformation forest. On the contrary, he didn't want to leave. With the underworld crow ghost Rattan, only a fool would want to leave this place. The underworld crow ghost Rattan swayed happily, and its main branches grew thicker and thicker. The branches that extended out also grew longer and longer. Within a radius of 1 zhang around Peace City, not even a blade of grass could be seen. It had become a piece of flat land. As the underworld crow ghost Rattan's branches extended out, the flat land continued to extend outwards. Ning Qing laughed. He had almost turned into lignification a moment ago, yet the situation suddenly changed in a blink of an eye. Truly, the river flows east for 30 years, then turns west for 30 years. Little Rattan, suck with all your might. Turn this damned place into nothingness. Ning Qing thought of the vines in the wood transformation forest that he had almost turned into a tree. An inexplicable fire ignited in his heart. As for the great heaven essence fruits around him, the underworld crow ghost Rattan had already sucked them away. However, he didn't care about it. The wood transformation forest was vast, and as long as he kept moving forward, he could find many good things inside. However, the message from the underworld crow ghost Rattan disappointed Ning Qing. The underworld crow ghost Rattan told Ning Qing that the wood spiritual source in this place was too powerful. With its current ability, it couldn't completely absorb the wood spiritual source in the wood transformation forest into nothingness. Once it absorbed the wood spiritual source to its limit, the underworld crow ghost Rattan would fall into a deep sleep and start advancing. Ning Qing, who originally planned to completely wipe out the wood transformation forest, felt shocked when he learned of this news. He quickly sent a message to the underworld crow ghost Rattan, telling it not to continue extending outwards. He still planned to make a fortune here. If the underworld crow ghost Rattan fell into a deep sleep, he might not even be able to get out. After obtaining Ning Qing's information, the underworld crow ghost Rattan immediately stopped its crazy absorption of the wood's spiritual source. Instead, according to Ning Qing's request, it only absorbed the wood's spiritual qi in Ning Qing's path. Although the underworld crow ghost Rattan's absorption of the wood's spiritual source had slowed down, Ning Qing could still walk through the wood transformation forest with ease. Once the vegetation in the wood transformation forest came close to Ning City, the underworld crow ghost Rattan would immediately absorb it. As for the high-grade starry sky spiritual grasses along the way, they all entered Ning Qing's ring. As for the great heaven essence fruit, Ning Qing had already collected them to the point where he no longer wanted to collect them. Not only the great heaven essence fruit, but even the higher grade starry sky spiritual grasses, Ning Qing also threw them into the true spirit world. The plants in the wood transformation forest seemed to have an innate sense of vigilance. After the underworld crow ghost Rattan and Ning Qing advanced for more than a dozen miles, no more vines took the initiative to attack the two of them. Yang and of Qingling sect as Qing. Use, he the sun Qing and the as the plants. While. And, he had the san, as around him. In the. By spirit. Of the plants in the wood transformation forest seemed to have an innate sense of vigilance. After the underworld crow ghost Rattan and Ning Qing walked more than 10 miles, no vines took the initiative to attack the two. 3 days later, Ning Qing and the underworld crow ghost Rattan walked out of the wood transformation forest. As soon as they walked out of the wood transformation forest, a huge pill pond appeared in front of Ning Qing. Ning Qing put away the underworld crow ghost Rattan and walked to the side of the pill pond in a few steps. This pill pond was much bigger than the perpetual moon pill pond he saw in the time wilderness. But to Ning Qing's regret, he didn't see a single perpetual moon pill here. The pill pond was empty. Ning Qing walked around the pill pond and finally found half a perpetual moon pill at the edge of the pill pond. Ning Qing raised his hand and picked up the half a perpetual moon pill. When he felt the starry sky essence chi aura coming from this half a perpetual moon pill, he immediately froze. Perpetual moon pills were different from other medicinal pills. Perpetual moon pills were a condensation of pure starry sky essence chi. This medicinal pill could be condensed in a specific place, forming a pill pond, a pill mountain, or even a pill sea. It could also be refined by a powerful cultivator. Some powerful cultivators could use their own spirit techniques to condense the starry sky essence chi into perpetual moon pills. Of course, such top-grade weapons could be used to condense the starry sky essence chi into perpetual moon pills. Of course, such top-grade weapons were extremely rare. No matter what method was used to extract the perpetual moon pills, they all had their own unique aura. The reason why Ning Qing froze was that he felt a familiar medicinal pill aura coming from this half a perpetual moon pill. Not long ago, he had used these perpetual moon pills for cultivation. That's right, it was the 1 million perpetual moon pills he obtained from Duan Gantai. Duan Gantai's perpetual moon pills had the same aura as the perpetual moon pills in this place. Ning Qing didn't even need to guess to know who took away the medicinal pills in the pill pond. No wonder this bastard didn't even blink when he took out 1 million perpetual moon pills. Even if the perpetual moon pills in this pill pond contained more than 100 million perpetual moon pills, it would have been strange if he could even blink for a mere million. Even Ning Qing couldn't help but feel envious of Duan Gantai's wealth at this moment. With such a large pill pond, how long would it take for him to cultivate? Moreover, this Duan Gantai seemed to have more than just these perpetual moon pills. He also had a large number of permanent essence pills. Ning Qing secretly took in a deep breath. He knew that Duan Gantai must have come here before. Since he could come here, it meant that Duan Gantai had a way to cross the wood transformation forest. At the same time, he also understood Duan Gantai's insidious thoughts. This fellow knew that he couldn't escape from the Eternal Night public square, but he still buried a bomb for himself. That is, in case he managed to escape from the Eternal Night public square, he might have to come to the Temple of Falling Stars. If not for the underworld crow ghost Rot-Tan in the Temple of Falling Stars, he would have already died in the wood transformation forest. No wonder he could pass through the wood transformation forest and take away so many perpetual moon pills. This fellow truly was insidious. Throwing the half a perpetual moon pill in his hand into the pill pond, Ning Qing circled around the pill pond and saw a temple gate. There was a dark red pillar on each side of the temple gate, with a somewhat broken plaque in the middle. The words engraved on the plaque could no longer be read. This should be the Temple of Falling Stars, right? Ning Qing guessed that the words engraved on the plaque were the words Temple of Falling Stars or Temple of Falling Stars. As soon as Ning Qing stepped through the door of the temple, a powerful whirlpool force swept towards him. Ning Qing quickly moved sideways to avoid it, allowing the whirlpool force to sweep past him in an instant before disappearing without a trace. Ning Qing felt startled and quickly swept out with his spiritual consciousness. However, he was horrified to find that although there seemed to be only one bluestone path in front of him, spatial maelstrom filled the space inside the temple. Just like the maelstrom from a moment ago, if he had not moved sideways to avoid it, he wouldn't have known where it would have swept him to. Moreover, Ning Qing also found that these maelstrom did not move at all. If not for his spiritual consciousness, he would not have been able to see it with his naked eyes. Ning Qing touched one of the maelstrom with his nirvana spear, and the maelstrom immediately stirred up a spatial force. Amazing! Without spiritual consciousness, one could not even take a step inside this place. Ning Qing carefully bypassed the dense spatial maelstrom and slowly moved forward on the bluestone path. After walking for nearly 100 meters, he once again encountered a circular door. Ning Qing stepped through the circular door, and a lifelike statue appeared in front of him. This statue was completely different from the statues Ning Qing had encountered before. This statue was lifelike, almost as if it was alive. When Ning Qing looked up and saw the face of this statue, he almost screamed out in surprise. This was an Yi, there was absolutely no doubt about it. He could clearly see that this was an E. When he had just arrived at the graceful star mainland, he and an E had to depend on each other for survival. The two had experienced many life and death situations and forged a deep friendship. Later, an E entered the Falling Star Academy, while he had to flee everywhere. Later, when the graceful star ocean's cultivators and the 9 continents cultivators broke out in a war, he had to go to the Hua continent to provide support. Together with the Hua continent's cultivator army, they managed to repel the graceful star ocean's demonic cultivators. At that time, he learned that an E was a talented disciple and was escorted to the Lu continent along with many other disciples. After that, he entered the Law's Way and was chased by the Gue clan, forcing him to flee to the graceful star ocean. When his cultivation grew strong enough, he picked up his younger sister Rualan and returned to the Lu continent. At that time, he completely destroyed the Gue clan. After that, in order to avoid fighting against the more powerful cultivators of the Gue clan, he once again crossed the graceful star ocean with Rualan and the others. During this time, he even forgot to look for an E in the Lu continent. After so many years, he unexpectedly saw an Yi statue in this place. Ning Qing stared at the statue in front of him. This young girl who looked exactly like an E, was it really an E? The statue also looked at Ning Qing quietly, as if it knew what Ning Qing was thinking in his heart, and its aura also turned soft. Ning Qing suddenly felt a pain in his heart. An E was such a lovely girl, how could she be like the others, a clay sculpture? Moreover, why was it placed here? No, Ning Qing once again looked up at the statue in front of him. This was definitely not an E. Even if an Yi's cultivation speed was fast, it was impossible for her to come to this place. Besides, this statue looked like it had existed for many years, how could it be an E? Moreover, this statue was lifelike, it was not a clay sculpture at all. An E, I don't know if you are doing well now. Ning Qing sighed and muttered to himself, before bypassing the statue. The starry skies were vast, and there were many secrets that he could not uncover right now. Ning Qing did not know that the moment he bypassed the statue, an incomparably powerful invisible barrier automatically disappeared from his sight. Then he saw a huge blood pool. Rather than saying it was a blood pool, it would be better to call it a blood river. The blood qi in the blood river tumbled down, just like a raging wave. The powerful blood qi in the blood river almost made Ning Qing vomit. But what shocked Ning Qing even more was that a man and a woman, 2 cultivators, were standing above the blood river. The rolling waves of the blood river were surging up between the two of them. Bang bang. A violent and oppressive aura rushed over, and Ning Qing was suppressed by this aura to the point that he had to take a few steps back. Just when he was about to hit the back of the statue, a soft force once again rushed back, allowing Ning Qing to stand firmly. Chapter 668. Suppressing him with just the powerful aura emanating from their bodies, just what kind of powerful cultivation was this? However, Ning Qing soon discovered something different. The 2 men and women seemed somewhat illusory, not even as real as an Yi's statue. At this moment, Ning Qing suddenly caught a trace of a mysterious and incomparably mysterious trajectory. He was immediately immersed in this incomparably profound path, and then an extremely sorrowful aura integrated into his mind. He seemed to see the petals falling one after another. The blood river in front of him, the suppression of the aura, under these incomparably sad petals, made Ning Qing feel even more sad. He slowly counted these petals, 1 petal, 2 petal, there were a total of 9 petals. When he counted to 9, his tears had already started to fall, and the sad emotion filled his entire mind. He finally understood that the blood river was not surging because of the confrontation between the 2 killing forces, but because of the sadness that filled the sky. The 9 petals were like drifting snowflakes, as their color gradually changed from white to blood red, as if they wanted to merge with the blood river, but also as if they had no one to rely on. Flowers wither, flowers scatter all over the sky, who would pity them? Ning Cheng's heart flashed with a hint of pain. In his mind's eye, Qianghua fainted under the everlasting sacred tree, Luofei hugging Qianghua helplessly. He couldn't wait to rush over and take Qianghua and Luofei away. The 9 petals above the blood river, under Ning Cheng's sadness, gradually merged into a vague shadow, which was the 9-petal lotus throne. Luofei and Qianghua stood on the 9-petal lotus throne. Ning Cheng's blood rushed to the top of the 9-petal lotus throne. He absolutely could not let Qianghua and Luofei fall into the blood river. In just a moment, the mysterious yellow origin aura filled his entire sea of consciousness, causing Ning Cheng to sober up in an instant. He immediately understood that this 9-petal lotus throne was a spirit technique belonging to the woman standing above the blood river. The sadness he felt was brought about by the 9-petal lotus throne's spirit technique. This mournful spirit technique seemed somewhat similar to his sunset's twilight. Ning Cheng immediately brought out his nirvana spear and stabbed out with his spear. Sunset's twilight. Unlike his previous spirit technique, Sunset's twilight, when Ning Cheng stabbed out with his spear, everything around him turned sad and beautiful. Time seemed to have stagnated, and everything seemed illusory. This was not the first time Ning Cheng had used the Sunset's twilight, but it had never felt as real as today. At this moment, he was like a god that ruled over dusk, summoning dusk and making the setting sun appear. This was a kind of beauty that was still. No one wanted to miss this kind of beauty. They would rather stop what they were doing and admire it quietly, even if it was only for a moment. Just like those incomparably beautiful and gorgeous petals, they were as beautiful as dusk, just as sorrowful, and just as heartbreaking. Bang! Ning Cheng's spear exploded in the middle of the confrontation between the man and woman, giving out a muffled sound similar to a bubble bursting open. Under Ning Cheng's spear, the 2 men and women standing opposite each other above the blood river disappeared without a trace. They were not real people, but images formed from the confrontation. Perhaps it was because their exchange was too fast, so even after they left, the divine art condensed images were still confronting each other. As the images of the 2 confronting each other disappeared, the river of blood under their feet also returned to normal. An incomparably huge black hole appeared in the distance, seemingly devouring the river of blood from afar. None of this had anything to do with Ning Cheng. He closed his eyes and sat down. The 2 confronting images disappeared, and Ning Cheng once again felt the sunset's twilight. However, he did not open his eyes. Instead, he saw the Tao patterns of the spirit techniques that were about to disappear. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would never have known what a Tao pattern of a spirit technique was. Or rather, he would never have known that a spirit technique could be used in such a way. The traceless, nothingness flame pattern spear, and angry axe, which he had comprehended before, all looked ridiculous in front of these Tao patterns of a spirit technique. Truly powerful divine abilities weren't realized through moves, but through Taoist arts. What was a Tao law? Although his sunset's twilight approached the level of a Tao law, it still wasn't a true Tao law of a spirit technique. Just as Song Qingbua said, maybe he would have his own Tao, only then would he have his own Tao law. Suddenly, Ning Cheng stood up and brought out the nirvana spear in his hand. The surrounding space formed a vortex in front of his nirvana spear. This vortex seemed to twist everything in the space together. Even if it was a few dozen feet away from Ning Cheng, as long as it was within this vortex, as long as he brought out this spear, it would instantly transform into a single point on the tip of the spear. What flame patterned spear, what angry axe's 3 forms, what traceless. All of them were illusory, completely illusory in front of his spear. At this time, he finally understood the scene he had seen in the everlasting Blue Thunder City. If his thoughts were focused on the spear, then even if he casually released this move, he could have brought out the full power of Traceless, Angry Axe's 3 forms, Nothingness Flame Pattern Spear, and even Sunset's Twilight. It was not that he had deliberately used that move, but that move had been brought out. This was the spirit technique of those powerhouses. Although it was a casual move, it contained the most powerful cultivation and the strength of the spirit technique. If he was strong, then he would be strong. If he was weak, then he would be strong. Boom! An indescribable enlightenment welled up in his heart. Although he had already reached the peak of Heaven's Mandate realm, Ning Cheng could still feel his strength rising rapidly. This had nothing to do with cultivation, it was just a sudden surge in strength. This was an epiphany. This epiphany brought him much greater benefits compared to the many years of bitter cultivation. Ning Cheng opened his eyes again, and his eyes flashed with joy and joy. At this moment, he finally touched the cultivation barrier of Heaven's Mandate realm. Maybe as long as he found the right opportunity, he would successfully advance to Heaven's Mandate realm and become a true powerhouse cultivator. The blood river in front of him had calmed down, but the black hole in the distance was still surging, as if it would swallow this place up at any time. Ning Cheng secretly felt shocked in his heart. He had a hunch that at the end of the black hole was another interface, or even a positional plane. The man and woman who were fighting might have entered that black hole and gone to another plane of existence. Did he rush into the black hole and enter the mysterious yellow bead? Could he also enter another positional plane? Ning Cheng looked at the black hole and hesitated for a long time. But when he thought of the powerful man and woman confronting each other, he felt even more uneasy. That female cultivator could suppress him with just a projection of her fighting aura. At the same time, it allowed him to integrate his spirit technique, allowing him to gain a more thorough understanding of returning to one, allowing him to grasp the edge of the heaven-seated realm. If he really met such a powerhouse, he might not even have the chance to escape. This kind of powerhouse was definitely much stronger than the pale-faced Eternal Realm cultivator who chased him into the ancient Desolace abandoned land. Even if he wanted to go, he would have to wait until he advanced to the heaven-seated realm. Moreover, because he saw Qianghua in danger from that female cultivator's 9-petal lotus throne, he felt a little worried about Qianghua. Once he advanced to the heaven-seated realm, he would see if he could return to the ancient Desolace abandoned land. It didn't matter if he couldn't find the Purple Yin Spirit Spring, he could bring Qianghua and Luofei to the Eternal Night Domain. Even an Eternal Realm cultivator wouldn't be able to sense this place. Besides, once he advanced to the heaven-seated realm, he would have to fight against an Eternal Realm cultivator. Thinking of this, Ning Cheng retreated from behind the statue. When he returned to the front of the statue, the blood river disappeared from the range of his spiritual consciousness. Not only did the blood river disappear, but even the black hole devouring the blood river had also disappeared. Ning Cheng gave out a sigh. He did not go back to check but stared at the statue that resembled an Yi. An Yi's appearance remained the same, but Ning Cheng did not know what happened. Instead, he saw an exhausted look on an Yi's statue. It seemed as if she was suppressed by something and felt an indescribable weariness. After seeing an Yi's tired look, Ning Cheng decided to take the statue away. This place was at the edge of the blood river, and the blood river could swallow the statue at any time. He felt that this statue not only looked the same as an Yi, but it also had a trace of aura. Moreover, this aura also felt similar to an Yi's. He and an Yi had lived together, so he was very familiar with an Yi's aura. An Yi was still a little girl who didn't understand anything. Whether this was an Yi or not, this tired look in her eyes made him feel a little distressed. An Yi's statue only had a simple praying mat at its feet. Ning Cheng carefully threw out some array flags and wrapped it around the statue. Then, he used an array formation to move an Yi's statue and the praying mat under it into the true spirit world. Graceful Star Mainland's Feng continent was the second largest continent after the Lu continent, apart from the Tian continent across the Graceful Star Ocean. The Celestial Moon Pills sect was an 8-star sect in the Feng continent and an alchemy sect. Therefore, its status in the 9 continents was no worse than those 9-star sections. The status of a disciple in the Celestial Moon Pills sect was even higher than others. If one became a core disciple, everyone would try to curry favor with them. However, there was one exception for a core disciple. This core disciple was not only not a target for others to curry favor with, but also an existence that everyone ridiculed. If it weren't for her master being a powerhouse who could refine rank 7 Earth-grade medicinal pills, she would have already been taken in as a maid. There was no other reason for this. Ever since this core disciple entered the Celestial Moon Pills sect and cultivated to the profound core realm, she hadn't made any progress. Over the past few decades, not only did her cultivation not make any progress, but she also used up a lot of cultivation resources. If it weren't for her master's strength, how could this beautiful female cultivator have the right to speak for herself? But now, this female cultivator's backer had disappeared. Her master had suddenly fallen 5 months ago without leaving behind a single word. For 5 months, this female cultivator had stood in front of her master's coffin without moving a single step. She felt uncertain about her future and didn't know how to deal with things in the future. She knew that as long as she left her master's immortal cave, she would never be able to speak up for herself. But she also knew that even if she didn't leave her master's immortal cave, after her master fell, the sect would take back the immortal cave a year later. At that time, she would still have to leave this place. Junior apprentice sister Annie, uncle master has already passed away. You can't always stay in the immortal cave alone. Let's go out for a walk. A crisp female voice arrived, and Annie suddenly woke up from her daze. However, she didn't answer this voice. She knew that she had no friends here, and no one would be kind enough to ask her to go out for a walk. She also had a friend, Big Brother Ning, but Big Brother Ning couldn't come here. Big Brother Ning Cheng had once told her that one should never have the heart to harm others, but one should never have the heart to guard against others. She had always kept these words in mind. Chapter 669. Celestial Shatterer, Celestial Gatherer. Celestial Bridge, Undying, Heaven's Mandate. Ning Cheng didn't even dare to look back. Instead, he brought out the underworld crow ghost Rattan and once again passed through the wood transformation forest. Ning Cheng feared the blood river and feared that the black hole would swallow him up. Therefore, after entering the wood transformation forest, his speed increased by several times compared to when he first came out. Ning Cheng didn't dare to stay for even a moment. He immediately rushed out of the temple. The moment he rushed out of the temple, a powerful roar came from behind him. At this moment, the plow-yellow jade on her chest suddenly emitted a faint light, which quickly enveloped Annie. The middle-aged man didn't even ask for Annie's opinion and spoke to himself. Although he looked much older than Guan Han, he didn't call Guan Han, senior apprentice brother, unnaturally. Thank you, Big Brother Ning. I know it must be you. Annie looked up at the empty sky in the distance and spoke softly. Apart from Big Brother Ning, who would save her? Even if others saw her guarding the blood river, they wouldn't even look at her. Tearing through the void. All the elders looked completely dumbfounded. The celestial moon pill sect master even opened his mouth wide, not knowing what he was doing. As Ning Cheng expected, there was no one around. Ning Cheng acted decisively. Since he made up his mind, he wouldn't hesitate. He rushed into the collapsing maelstrom without hesitation and entered the mysterious yellow bead. Half a year passed in a blink of an eye. Annie looked back at her master's cave before coming out. The moment Ning Cheng moved Annie's statue away, his feet trembled, and a burst of roars erupted. It felt as if the temple was about to collapse. A few days later, Ning Cheng once again rushed out of the 2 huge pillars. The roars still echoed behind him. Ning Cheng didn't care about bringing this disaster to the eternal night domain. He directly brought out the starry sky wheel and quickly left. Countless pieces of information appeared in her mind. These pieces of information were intermittent and contained all kinds of spirit techniques. It seemed that she had made a big mistake and was punished to guard the blood river between positional planes. Then, her cultivation was imprisoned and she wasn't allowed to cultivate. She broke through eternity and saw a new world. At this time, the plow-yellow jade on her chest finally stabilized. Other than some faint ripples, she had once again returned to her original appearance. After the epiphany in the Temple of Falling Stars, Ning Cheng's strength rose once again. As his strength rose, the refining speed of the starry sky will naturally increased. By this time, he had already refined 60 layers of restrictions on the starry sky wheel. 4 months later, Ning Cheng finally arrived at a place that he had not been able to come to before. Although they had cultivated to this day, they had never heard of anyone in the Yixing mainland who could tear through the planar boundary space to leave this place. This wasn't an illusion, it wasn't. After kneeling for 2 whole hours, the Celestial Moon Elixir School's elders and sect master finally dared to stand up. One of the elders immediately rushed towards the middle-aged man who had been swept away by an E. He reached out and picked the man up as if he was picking up a chicken. He said in a cold voice, "Deacon Long, you've got guts. You dare to bring people to force a marriage with the founder of the Celestial Moon Pill sect," but at this time, an E was able to casually grab a giant peak that was thousands of miles away. What kind of cultivation was this? This was definitely a top-notch expert living in seclusion here. "An E, I don't know how you are now." An E suddenly heard Ning Cheng's words, and she couldn't hold back her tears. Big Brother Ning was still thinking about her. Her cultivation, which had been shackled for so many years, finally broke through at this moment. While speaking, An E raised her hand and made one mysterious gesture after another. Although there was a cave in front of her, it soon turned into a graveyard. Then, An E raised her hand and casually grabbed a few verdant giant peaks in her hand. At this moment, her cultivation started to advance crazily. It was the result of someone taking her away through the gap in the barrier. The plow yellow jade on her chest kept seeping in, and the mysterious aura made it impossible for her cultivation to stop. After putting away the starry sky wheel, Ning Cheng saw a huge spatial collapse vortex from afar. Just as Yang Jun had said, the spatial collapse vortex brought out one starry sky essence chi after another. This starry sky essence chi couldn't be used for cultivation, and as soon as it came out, it disappeared without a trace. Zhu Feng was caught by the void and brought to Celestial Moon Pill School. Celestial Moon Pill School's elders and sect head were alerted. When everyone saw that An E had casually grabbed them from the void, they all turned dumbfounded. Many years ago, An E was still a genius disciple in the Celestial Moon Pill sect. But since An E reached the profound core realm and stopped advancing, no one paid attention to An E except for her master. After An E finished arranging her master's grave, she raised her hand and swept it. The already ashen-faced middle-aged man and Guan Han were directly swept out, tumbling outside the entrance of the mountain. Her voice echoed in her master's cave, but Big Brother Ning's figure disappeared without a trace again. If she could do it all over again, she would never follow others to the Clear Heart Academy. She would stay by Big Brother Ning's side forever. Because after that time, she never saw her Big Brother Ning again, nor did she ever hear any news about him. The deacon couldn't say a word. How could he know that An E was the ancestor of the Celestial Moon Pill sect? If he knew, even if he killed him, he wouldn't have dared to come here and force her to marry him. Late-stage profound core, soul essence, soul sculpting, sea opening, crucible transformation, plundering life, she comprehended a domain, and her domain reached perfection in an instant. She saw a brand new starry sky world, and her cultivation broke through the domain realm, reaching the first of the 3 celestial scryer realms, the celestial novice realm. Moreover, he was about to advance to the heaven-seated realm, which required a lot of cultivation resources. At the same time, he also planned to find a way to leave the eternal night domain once he advanced to the heaven-seated realm and go back to bring his sister, Luofei, and the others with him. Only Big Brother Ning was sincere to her and would take her with him to the ends of the world. Only Big Brother Ning would always put danger behind his back. Ning Cheng was too familiar with that roaring sound. It was the same roaring blood river he had seen before. He didn't expect that after moving An E away, the previously invisible blood river would roar again. Moreover, at this rate, it seemed like it would soon turn the entire temple into ruins. Big Brother Ning, is that really you? Tears flowed down An Yi's eyes. The moment she saw Ning Cheng, her entire heart soared. She wanted to reach out and grab Ning Cheng, however, the distance between them was so close that she could never touch him. An indescribable sense of carefreeness and ease spread throughout her body, causing her body to sublimate. She vaguely saw Ning Cheng. It was Ning Cheng who helped her lift that heavy burden, and it was Ning Cheng who restored her freedom. Heaven-seated realm, life and death realm, eternal realm, After saying this, Yi took a step into the void, raised her hand, and tore open the void in front of her, before stepping into it once again. Ning Qing chose a direction this time. The place he wanted to go was the location on the jade strip that Yang Jun had left for him. He had left the Eternal Night Domain for a long time. As such, he believed that the cultivators of the Su clan would not stay around the maelstrom of the spatial collapse. Yi immediately wanted to stand up and rush out to find Ning Cheng's traces. However, at this time, the yellow jade on her chest shone even brighter, and a warm aura poured into her chest, causing a lot of information to flow into her mind for no apparent reason. At the same time, she also unconsciously started to circulate her spiritual qi. Even the cultivation method she cultivated had completely changed into something she had never cultivated before. However, these elders and sect masters quickly sobered up and quickly knelt on the ground and spoke up in a respectful voice, respectfully sending off Ancestral Master Yi. She shouted, "Big Brother Ning, I'm here, I'm here." A middle-aged man saw Yi coming out and immediately spoke up with a smile, "Yi, leave the matters here to others. You can keep watch for your master for a year, which shows your sincerity. Let me introduce you, this is our Celestial Moon Pill sect's senior apprentice brother Guan Han. It has only been 20 years since he entered the sect, and he has already reached the late-stage soul essence realm. The Guan clan had proposed marriage to your master before, so you will be a member of the Guan clan from now on." Yi once again bowed in front of her master's cave a few times before turning to the elders and sect masters of the Celestial Moon Pill sect and speaking, "I'm leaving. No one is allowed to touch my master's tomb." Yi still didn't look back and spoke with a calm tone, "This will be my master's resting place from now on. No one is allowed to disturb it." Yi shook her head lightly and looked back at her master's cave. She didn't speak for a long time. The moment she advanced to the celestial novice realm, a powerful pressure from the laws of heaven and earth descended upon her, making it hard for her to breathe. It felt as if it wanted to tear her apart completely. But at this moment, the plow topaz on her chest once again raised wave after wave of protective ripples, completely protecting her. The laws of heaven and earth could not penetrate her ripple shield, and her cultivation continued to advance. It seemed that as long as she did not stop cultivating, her cultivation would not stop. Yi stood up with a calm expression on her face. However, she already knew in her heart that as long as she casually stomped her feet, the graceful star mainland would crumble to pieces. At this moment, Yi felt as if she had broken free from the shackles that bound her, and her entire body felt relaxed. It felt as if a heavy burden had been placed on her shoulders, and this burden had suddenly been taken away by someone else. She had a docile personality. Even if her cultivation reached a certain level, she did not make any threats. She did not even do anything to the middle-aged man. Yi casually placed these giant peaks around her master's tomb, forming a huge defensive array. The middle-aged man's face sank. "Yi, senior apprentice brother Guan took a liking to you. Do you know that if it weren't for senior apprentice brother Guan, would you have been able to peacefully guard master's coffin for a year?" The voice called out a few times, but Yi's voice did not come back. Then he sighed and walked away. Yi looked at her master's coffin with a sad expression. Her luck was good, and she had two masters who loved and protected her. However, her fate was not good. Her first master's lifespan came to an end, and this master once again fell. At this moment, a voice came from outside again, "Yi, you have been guarding master's coffin for a year. It's time to take your master away from here." Chapter 670. The core lake was filled with perpetual moon pills, each of which exuded a pure starry sky essence chi. From the looks of it, this pool of pills contained at least 1 billion pills. The pills that tumbled out of the core lake were all swept away by the spatial storm at the edge and entered the direction Ning Cheng had just come from. Ning Cheng only understood at this moment why the maelstrom of the spatial collapse had such rich starry sky essence chi overflowing from it. As the violent aura rushed over, Ji Luofei did not even have room to struggle. "What? My elder sister is married. The white-robed woman raised her hand and grabbed Shi Qionghua's wrist, but her expression soon changed. This time, she felt sure that she would not experience cultivation deviation again. 3 years ago, after entering this iron gate, she had obtained a large number of cultivation crystals. It was also because of these crystals that her cultivation slowly recovered. Ning Qing only hesitated for a moment before rushing into the perpetual moon pill lake. Only by putting all the pills in this place into his ring, would they truly belong to him. Ji Luofei did not walk for long before a figure controlling a flight-type weapon rushed over. No matter how terrifying the Ice Immortal Ridge was, it could not stop cultivators from looking forward to the treasures here. Her gaze swept over Shi Qionghua's body before she immediately looked at Ji Luofei and asked in a cold voice, "Who turned my elder sister into this? Speak." One after another, the violent spatial wind blades brushed past the edge of Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness, along with some spatial dislocations. With such a powerful body-forging environment, Ning Cheng even forgot what he came here for. He did not come here for body forging, but to look for cultivation resources for advancing to the heaven-seated realm. After the white-robed woman finished speaking, she raised her hand and slammed it down on the ice cliff. Then with a flash, she brought Shi Qionghuo along and disappeared without a trace from the place where she had come from. Just as he was about to quietly prepare for the breakthrough to the celestial river realm for body forging, the spatial wind blades around him suddenly disappeared. Ning Qing stared at the huge core lake in front of him in a daze. His gaze moved away from the core lake and once again fell behind the core lake, leaving him dumbfounded. Although Ji Luofei was very careful with the fireball, but the sound of the wind as she walked was still a bit loud. The corpse was unexpectedly blown away by the wind, and turned into a pile of dust. The white-robed woman's anger continued to boil. She threw a pill into Shi Qionghua's mouth, before raising her hand to kill Ji Luofei. However, just as she was about to smash him, she suddenly stopped and coldly said, "What's your husband's name?" "Not good. This corpse is highly toxic, it should have been poisoned to death." Ji Luofei quickly exited the house, and immediately rushed out through the hole that the white-robed woman had created. Ji Luofei pursed her lips and did not say a single word. She had never thought that elder sister Qionghuo would have a younger sister, moreover her younger sister was so unreasonable. In the ice immortal ridge of the radial immortal star Jade City, people had long forgotten that this place had suddenly split open a few years ago. After devouring the lives of thousands of cultivators, it closed again. The white-robed woman felt surprised, but she did not continue searching Ji Luofei's soul, nor did she ask Ji Luofei's husband's name. In this way, Ning Qing moved forward while simultaneously forging his body. Every time his body couldn't bear the immense pressure, Ning Qing would take out a ascending dragon orchid and fuse it with his corporeal body. After coming out of the Temple of Fallen Stars, he did not have many things on him, but he had a lot of high-grade spiritual grasses. Not to mention a ascending dragon orchid, even if he had to take out 100 ascending dragon orchids, he could still take them out. The harvest from sweeping through the woodflower forest was no less than harvesting a top-grade starry sky spiritual medicine garden. With the ice walls of the room blasted open, Ji Luofei could see the things inside the room at a glance. A skeleton sat in the middle of the room, with a ring lying 3 meters in front of the skeleton. Ji Luofei carefully walked over and picked up the ring. Shi Qionghuo had already married in her previous life. Although she still maintained her purine body in this life, her supreme Dao law had already started to crack. Puff puff. 2 ear-piercing sounds of skin tearing immediately tore through Ning Cheng's robes, and the wind blades directly cut into Ning Cheng's flesh. Now that he had passed through the spatial collapse maelstrom, as long as he followed the direction of the starry sky essence chi, Ning Cheng believed that one day, he would be able to find the source of the starry sky essence chi. Therefore, he wasn't in a hurry at this time. With a powerful nirvana realm corporeal body, it wouldn't be much weaker than a powerful cultivation. This woman glanced at Ji Luofei with cold eyes and raised her hand. Shi Qionghuo, who was sleeping in Ji Luofei's miniature world, suddenly floated in front of her. Ji Luofei's ring's restrictions looked like a decoration in front of her. 1 month later, Ning Cheng's celestial body finally reached the full circle. As long as he could take one more step forward, he would be able to break through to the celestial river body. At this moment, Shi Qionghua's faint voice arrived. If you hurt little sister Luofei, I will never let you go. Boom. Ji Luofei was still thinking about how to get out of this place, and was still thinking about Ning Cheng, when the ice above her head suddenly burst open, and a woman in a snow-white robe fell into the room from the explosion. Ning Cheng had never walked as slowly as he did today. For every step forward, he had to spend almost all of his energy and half an incense stick worth of time. He believed that even if that Duan Gantai turned out to be heaven-defying, he wouldn't be able to come to this place and snatch things from him. Without the mysterious yellow bead, he couldn't come to this place. If he tried to force his way down, he would only end up turning into nothingness. Moreover, his spiritual consciousness was powerful enough to detect spatial dislocations and even more powerful spatial wind edges in advance. As long as he avoided being taken away by the spatial dislocations or swept away by the powerful spatial wind edges, it wouldn't be a big problem. These ordinary spatial wind edges, on the other hand, could help him in forging his body. Since this place was broken by this white-robed woman, he couldn't stay here for long. Ji Luofei felt shocked and quickly moved to the corner of the room. Her spiritual consciousness swept out and saw the blue sky and white clouds. She felt even more shocked in her heart. Who was this white-robed woman? How could she easily break through the terrifying ice of the Ice Immortal Ridge and come to this place? Ji Luofei realized that this person wasn't from the everlasting sacred shrine. She felt a little relieved and spoke. Elder sister Qianghua used the life concealment forbidden technique to hide her life, which caused her to fall into a deep sleep. My husband helped her look for life-saving items. Ji Luofei said that because this white-robed woman said that Qianghua was her elder sister. Ji Luofei looked at the white-robed woman who disappeared in horror and felt worried for Ning Cheng. This time, because her cultivation had recovered, she wanted to find a way out. However, even after Ji Luofei searched the entire ice house, she couldn't find even half an exit. As for the iron door leading to the ice lake, it had long since been sealed in ice and could no longer be opened. Ning Cheng had indeed made a fortune. In front of him was a huge pill lake, which contained perpetual moon pills. According to the size of the perpetual moon pill lake in front of him, Ning Cheng estimated that it was several times larger than the pill lake he saw in the Temple of Fallen Stars. Because Ji Luofei couldn't find a place to go, she decided to stay in this place and go into secluded cultivation. Ning Cheng didn't know how long the void collapse maelstrom had taken him in, but he knew that the mysterious yellow bead had stopped. At least when he swept out with his spiritual consciousness, the mysterious yellow bead only moved in circles and did not continue to be taken away. Whose husband? The white-robed woman's imposing manner turned even colder. Ji Luofei froze. She didn't even care about the ring in her hand. It stood to reason that in such a cold place, even if an ordinary person died, they wouldn't turn into dust, let alone a powerful cultivator. She retracted her hand and stared at Ji Luofei with a chilling gaze. Daring to ruin my big sister's Dao Law, no matter who he is, just wait for my mother to grind his bones to ashes. It was because of this iron door that she had escaped the freezing of the Ice Immortal Ridge and saved her life. However, for 3 years, she had been locked in this ice house with only one iron door. Apart from a large number of essence chi crystals for cultivation, there was nothing else inside. Ji Luofei stood up. It had been 3 years since she entered the Ice Immortal Ridge. During these 3 years, her cultivation had once again recovered to the Celestial Bridge realm. Her mother knew that her big sister's soul lamp was getting dimmer and that there was no possibility of reincarnation. Therefore, she decided to look for her big sister. She didn't expect that her big sister had already married someone in her previous life. Moreover, in this life, she did not even have a husband. Not only did she have a husband, but she also shared a husband with another woman. It was simply unbearable. Ning Cheng came out of the mysterious yellow bead. he did not fear the spatial wind edges. His everlasting blue thunder city could still defend against the spatial wind edges. He just needed to be careful of spatial dislocations. Once swept by a spatial dislocation, even if he had a powerful body forging, he would end up cut in half. Just when she was about to take a closer look, she suddenly smelled a fishy smell, which immediately caused her to feel dizzy. At this moment, he only had a single thought in his mind: rich, this father is rich. At this moment, Ning Qing completely forgot that he had just come out of the body forging environment and had not even changed his clothes yet. Ji Luofei spoke the truth. It's me and big sister Qionghua's husband, he. Boom. The ice wall, which the white-robed woman had previously attacked, gave out a loud bang, and another room appeared in front of Ji Luofei. Shi Qianghua had only spoken a single sentence before she once again fell into a state of unconsciousness. If this pool of perpetual moon pills made Ning Qing feel sluggish, then the permanent essence pill pond behind the perpetual moon pill pond made Ning Qing even more ecstatic. Unfortunately, this permanent essence pill pond was very small, and it only contained about 1,000,000 permanent essence pills. You don't have to say anything, but I don't believe that I can't search your soul. The white-robed woman gave a cold snort and raised her hand towards Ji Luofei's glabella. Ning Qing had just stood on the ground when several spatial wind edges sliced through his body. The spatial wind edges in this place were much more powerful than the spatial wind edges Ning Qing had encountered in the void outside the Eternal Night domain. However, Ning Qing still did not bring out the everlasting Blue Thunder City. Instead, he fully operated the body forging cultivation method while carefully moving in the direction of the celestial essence spiritual qi. Did she have to stay in this place for the rest of her life? If she stayed in this place, how could Ning Qing find her in the future? Chapter 671. Ning Qing put away the piles of perpetual moon pills into his true spirit world. This was not the time wilderness, where no one would snatch them away from him. Every perpetual moon pill here belonged to him alone. When Ning Qing put away the last batch of perpetual moon pills, a pale golden pill the size of a longan suddenly flew out. Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill. Ning Qing immediately understood and felt pleasantly surprised. Without hesitation, he flew up and grabbed the pale golden Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill with the fastest speed. The Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill was the best medicinal pill for advancing to the Heaven's Mandate realm. It was formed naturally and contained Tao charms. It was definitely much stronger than the Severing Filth Obscuring Heavenly Pill and the Accordance Heavenly Pill. Moreover, the smaller the Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill, the better the quality and the higher the purity of the pill. The Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill he saw in the Time Wilderness was the size of an egg. However, this Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill was only the size of a longan. It was obviously of a much higher grade compared to the one he saw last time. Carefully putting the Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill into the jade box, Ning Qing once again arrived at the Permanent Essence Pill Pond. The Permanent Essence Pill Pond was much smaller than the Perpetual Moon Pill Pond. Ning Qing estimated that there were only 1,000,000 Permanent Essence pills in it. But even so, he felt very satisfied with it. Permanent Essence pills were far more valuable than Perpetual Moon pills and were much more difficult to obtain. This time, Ning Qing did not immediately put the permanent essence pills into his true spirit world. There were only about 1,000,000 permanent essence pills here. If he wanted to collect them, he could do so in just a few breaths. Thinking about the Celestial River Essence Qi King Pill and the new insights he gained into the returning to one Tao, he decided that he might as well try to advance to the heaven-seated realm in the Permanent Essence Pill Pond. It was not as if he had not experienced the tribulation within the void before. With his current foundation and the Celestial River Essence Pill King, and the Permanent Essence Pill Pond, he had a 90% chance of advancing to the heaven-seated realm. Thinking of this, Ning Qing arranged a defensive array around the Permanent Essence Pill Pond before jumping into the Permanent Essence Pill Pond. Ning Cheng had just entered the permanent essence pill pond when the extremely pure and rich essence qi immediately rushed over. Ning Cheng did not even need to circulate his spiritual circulation on his own. Instead, the celestial essence pill qi from the permanent essence pills, just like the mysterious yellow origin, started scouring his meridians. Ning Cheng quickly sat down and threw the celestial river king pill into his mouth. He then started to use the rich essence qi from the permanent essence pills to break through to the heaven-seated realm. As soon as the celestial river king pill entered Ning Cheng's mouth, it immediately turned into a gurgling celestial river essence pill aura. This essence pill aura was completely different from permanent essence pills. Instead, it directly impacted Ning Cheng's cultivation barrier without Ning Cheng's guidance. At the same time, the Dao charm aura contained within the celestial river pill king also spread out from Ning Cheng's consciousness. Ning Cheng casually brought out the celestial river king pill aura and rushed to the cultivation barrier of heaven's mandate realm. Boom boom. A dull explosion echoed through Ning Cheng's meridians, and a powerful impact force slammed into the cultivation barrier of heaven's mandate realm, something Ning Cheng could not even touch before. Ning Cheng's entire body shook. This impact not only required a high cultivation level, but it also required a strong corporeal body. The violent backlash force caused Ning Cheng to tremble in fear. He even suspected that if he was not a body-forging cultivator in the Nirvana realm, this breakthrough to the heaven-seated realm would have already caused his corporeal body to collapse. Fortunately, he was a body-forging cultivator on the verge of advancing to the celestial river body. Bang! The huge celestial river essence qi once again bounced back after rushing to the cultivation barrier of heaven's mandate realm. Ning Cheng finally could not bear it and spat out a mouthful of blood. His heaven-seated realm was too powerful. Even under such favorable conditions, it still did not show any signs of movement. This made Ning Cheng not dare to continue the full impact. He feared that his corporeal body would truly collapse. Just when Ning Cheng stimulated the celestial river essence qi king pill and prepared to continue the breakthrough, lightning arcs descended. Ning Cheng did not even bother to count them, but he could vaguely feel that the number of lightning arcs exceeded 100. Ning Cheng stood up and roared. Not only did he not bring out the everlasting Blue Thunder City, but he also rushed forward to meet the incoming lightning arcs. This thunder tribulation felt like it was looting a burning house. It struck him at his most difficult time, which made Ning Cheng extremely annoyed. If he had to deal with this thunder tribulation, it would have weakened his power to break through to the heaven-seated realm. If his heaven-seated realm cultivation was ordinary, it would not have mattered much. However, the key was that his heaven-seated realm was extremely powerful. If he had waited a little longer, as long as he could break through the cultivation barrier of heaven-seated realm, even if this thunder tribulation grew bigger, it would still have helped him. However, the reality was not what he wanted. Just when he wanted to break through the cultivation barrier of heaven-seated realm, the thunder tribulation descended. This was truly looting a burning house. Boom 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 boom. Violent lightning arcs bombarded Ning Cheng's body. Ning Cheng did not have any clothes on his body, so the violent and wild thunder tribulation instantly tore open Ning Cheng's skin and flesh. Even if Ning Cheng's body forging reached the full circle of the celestial body realm, the thunder tribulation's lightning arcs still tore open his bones. If he had not reached the full circle of the celestial body realm, he would have already turned into slag. Ka-ka. As the lightning arcs continued to descend, Ning Cheng's bones continued to crack open. However, under Ning Cheng's powerful restorative ability and body forging cultivation method, his bones continuously healed. Thump thump. This wave of thunder tribulation had just dissipated, and the next wave of thunder tribulation's lightning arcs had not yet descended. Ning Cheng's heart gave out a strong thump, and his bones and flesh, which had been torn open by the lightning arcs, instantly healed. An even more powerful feeling surged into his heart, and a fearless body made Ning Cheng roar once again. At the same time, his essence, qi, and spirit reached the peak. At this moment, Ning Cheng had not advanced to the heaven-seated realm, but his body forging had broken through the celestial body and reached the celestial river body. Although the celestial body and the celestial river body were only separated by a thin line, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. Boom rumble, boom rumble. More lightning arcs once again descended in a frenzy. This time, Ning Cheng brought out his Nirvana spear and shot out with his spear. This spear was a spear that he had developed after comprehending the Tao law of returning to one. It was not just a spear, but a true spirit technique that combines several spear techniques. All the lightning arcs seemed to have been swept away by his spear, but then the spear's shadows in Ning Cheng's hands dissipated, allowing the lightning arcs to once again strike Ning Cheng's body. Unlike the last time, when the lightning arcs struck Ning Cheng's body, they only left some red and white marks on his body. They could no longer cause him to bleed profusely. Ning Cheng's spear intent could finally drive these lightning arcs. Although it could not completely disperse these lightning arcs, the fact that he could drive them meant that these lightning arcs could no longer hurt him. Ning Cheng felt pleasantly surprised. After advancing to the celestial river body, his body forging had become so powerful. Could he try out that spatial collapse maelstrom from before? Boom! The third wave of lightning arcs descended. This time, Ning Cheng did not continue to drive the lightning arcs to temper his body. Instead, he gathered the remaining celestial river essence chi from the celestial river king pill and the celestial essence within his body before blasting it towards the heaven-seated realm's cultivation barrier. Because the heaven-seated realm's cultivation barrier was too strong, he could not continue to force his way through. But now that his body forging had advanced to the celestial river body, even if he attacked with all his might, his body would not collapse. Bang! Catcha! With just the first impact, a crack appeared on his heaven-seated realm's cultivation barrier. Ning Cheng felt happy in his heart and once again pushed his celestial essence towards the heaven-seated realm's cultivation barrier. Ning Cheng completely put aside the violent lightning arcs and, in addition to absorbing the thunder source for his own use, he also focused on attacking the heaven-seated realm. Boom! With such a violent impact, even if Ning Cheng's heaven-seated realm was tough and powerful, it would still explode. The surging celestial essence chi swept over and quickly washed away without a trace. After advancing to the heaven-seated realm, the starry sky essence chi that Ning Cheng needed to absorb was like a bottomless pit. Wave after wave of powerful celestial essence pill chi was swept away without leaving even a trace. Although the lightning arcs continued to fall, Ning Cheng did not crazily fight against the thunder tribulation again. Instead, he sat in the permanent essence pill pond and continuously absorbed the thunder source and the celestial essence pill chi from the permanent essence pill pond. If someone were watching from the side, they would have clearly seen the permanent essence pill chi around Ning Cheng rapidly diminishing. However, Ning Cheng's cultivation did not rise significantly. The reduced permanent essence pill chi only helped him to stabilize his heaven-seated realm cultivation. Ning Cheng felt a little surprised. Although he did not open his eyes, he knew that after advancing to the heaven-seated realm, he needed to absorb an endless amount of starry sky essence chi. As time passed by in Ning Cheng's crazy absorption, the lightning arcs above Ning Cheng's head had long since disappeared. However, Ning Cheng still did not stand up. A powerful cultivator's aura lingered around Ning Cheng. At this time, even if a cultivator in the life and death realm came here, they would feel frightened. Moreover, the imposing aura emanating from Ning Cheng was just too powerful. It even formed a circle after circle of imposing aura lines. Apart from the increasing imposing aura around him, Ning Cheng still showed no signs of waking up. One day, 1 month, 1 year, even Ning Cheng himself did not think that it would take him so long to surmount a tribulation. When he opened his eyes again, his cultivation had stabilized at the early stage heaven-seated realm. However, Ning Cheng immediately felt dumbfounded. Not a single permanent essence pill remained around him. Apart from him sitting alone in the permanent essence pill pond, there was nothing else around him. Did someone come here and take away the rest of the permanent essence pills? Ning Cheng had just thought of this when he shook his head. It was absolutely impossible. However, he had just advanced to the heaven-seated realm. How could he use up so many permanent essence pills? He immediately recalled the scene of him crazily absorbing the starry sky essence chi from the permanent essence pills. If he consumed it like this in the future, how could he cultivate? Right, there are still perpetual moon pills. As Ning Qing thought of this, he raised his hand and took out a pile of perpetual moon pills. Although perpetual moon pills had a lower effect compared to permanent essence pills, he still had a lot of them. However, Ning Qing soon felt disappointed. He could indeed absorb perpetual moon pills for cultivation, but the effect, Ning Qing shook his head and put away all the perpetual moon pills. He knew that if he relied on perpetual moon pills for cultivation, the nearly 1 billion perpetual moon pills would only help him advance to the late-stage heaven's mandate realm. Moreover, it was above his current foundation. As for time, it would probably take even more. In other words, even if he obtained countless perpetual moon pills, he would not be able to use them. Chapter 672. No, Ning Qing had just put away the perpetual moon pills when he felt something wrong. He had already put away the perpetual moon pills, but the permanent essence pill pond could still absorb the rich starry sky essence chi. After a few breaths, Ning Qing saw that the starry sky essence chi had come from the bottom of the permanent essence pill pond. There was something strange about this permanent essence pill pond. As Ning Qing thought of it, he raised his hand and grabbed at the pill pond. If Ning Qing were still in the heaven's mandate realm, even if he used all his strength, he wouldn't have been able to shake this pill pond. But this time, Ning Cheng's hand easily broke through the permanent essence pill pond, and a huge natural array formation appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Under the natural array formation, even more starry sky essence chi started to leak out, revealing a several-foot-long starry sky essence chi vein. Ning Cheng knew about spiritual veins. Back in the Yixing mainland, he had once snatched a spiritual vein. As soon as this several-foot-long essence chi vein appeared, Ning Cheng recognized it as a starry sky spiritual vein. Looking at the edge of this starry sky spiritual vein, this starry sky spiritual vein should have been at least hundreds or even tens of thousands of feet long. However, due to the erosion over a long period of time, this starry sky spiritual vein had become a few dozen feet long. The starry sky essence chi in this starry sky spiritual vein wasn't as pure as the permanent essence pills, but Ning Qing still felt happy about it. He only needed enough high-grade starry sky essence chi for his cultivation. As for whether it was pure or not, it did not have much effect on him. Under the scouring of the mysterious yellow origin aura, even the impure starry sky's essence chi could be absorbed by him. Those impurities would be washed away by his mysterious yellow origin aura. Ning Cheng raised his hand and pulled out the small starry sky spiritual vein before sending it into his true spirit world. Sure enough, after Ning Cheng extracted the starry sky spiritual vein, the starry sky essence chi in the permanent essence pill pond disappeared without a trace. Ning Cheng finally understood that the permanent essence pills and perpetual moon pills from before all came from this starry sky spiritual vein. Perpetual moon pills were produced from the residual aura of permanent essence pills. As for this starry sky spiritual vein, because of the long period of time spent in the natural array formation to produce pure medicinal pills, it had been reduced to only a few feet long. If he hadn't come over, this starry sky spiritual vein would have been completely exhausted after a while. Since Ning Cheng had extracted the starry sky spiritual vein, this place would no longer produce starry sky essence chi. Ning Cheng looked around and confirmed that there were only 2 pill ponds in this place. Now that the essence chi pills in the pill pool were all taken away by him, and even the spirit vein was extracted by him, there was no meaning in continuing to stay here. It was just that it was convenient for him to come in, but how was he going to get out now? After advancing to the celestial river body, as long as he did not encounter any spatial dislocations, the spatial wind blades would not affect him in the slightest. Half a month later, Ning Cheng finally stopped. At this moment, he couldn't even find the location of the void collapse vortex, let alone go back the way he came. Ning Cheng gave out a sigh. Even if he could find the location of the vortex leading to the void collapse, so what? Could he get out? That kind of violent spatial vortex swept downwards. Just how much spatial power did it have? With his current cultivation, it was impossible for him to go against the spatial whirlpool. A spatial blade light swept past Ning Cheng's body, but Ning Cheng remained indifferent. He didn't know how to return to Grand Culmination Starry Sky. Maybe he could leave this place with the help of a spatial dislocation. After hesitating for a while, another spatial dislocation appeared in front of Ning Cheng. Ning Cheng did not continue to hesitate and directly entered the mysterious yellow bead, letting the mysterious yellow bead fall into this spatial dislocation. Apart from this, he couldn't find any other way to get out of this place. As the mysterious yellow bead was taken away by the spatial dislocation, Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness immediately swept out. After a breath, Ning Cheng quickly retracted his spiritual consciousness. In the midst of the spatial collapse vortex, he could barely stretch out his spiritual consciousness. But in this spatial dislocation, even if his spiritual consciousness grew several times stronger, it still ended up getting torn apart by the chaotic space. Once one entered the gap of the spatial dislocation, one's life and death could only be determined by fate. A few days later, Ning Cheng still couldn't stretch out his spiritual consciousness. He simply settled down and cultivated in the mysterious yellow bead. The effect of cultivation in the mysterious yellow bead was several times stronger than the outside world. Coupled with Ning Cheng's Starry Sky spiritual vein, he didn't have to worry about not having enough Starry Sky essence chi to absorb. After advancing to the heaven-seated realm, Ning Cheng's cultivation and absorption of Starry Sky essence chi looked like a giant whale sucking in water. The Starry Sky essence chi and the mysterious yellow origin aura fused together and formed a huge whirlpool around Ning Cheng. The rich Starry Sky essence chi and the mysterious yellow origin aura fused together and formed a huge whirlpool around Ning Cheng. At the same time, the metal, water, fire, and earth origin auras also continuously fused into this huge Starry Sky essence chi whirlpool. Haha, this little ant is still here. Oh, this flight-type weapon looks good. As Bian Shiyan spoke, he raised his hand and put away his flight-type weapon before walking over from the void. Brother Ning, hurry up and leave. I'll help you stop this beast. Song Qingbua shouted anxiously when he saw Bian Shiyan coming over. Bian Shiyan couldn't see Ning Cheng's cultivation, nor could he see Ning Cheng's cultivation. Ning Cheng sneered and didn't drive the Starry Sky wheel to escape. Instead, he put away the Starry Sky wheel and opened his hand. A high-rank Dao artifact long spear fell into his hand. Escape? Was a cultivator who had just advanced to the life and death realm worth escaping? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.